Dude, I've done that 4 times this week.
I know you did that this morning.
Where I leave it on. I'm so out of it like the past couple of days, man. Woo! Goddamn! Welcome. It's Friday night. It's Friday night.
Right.
We don't typically do this kind of thing, but yeah, we're here with the king, right? What did she call you? The Boulder King?
Boulder King. Yeah.
The Boulder King?
The Quarry King, Boulder King, it happens.
I like it kinda.
It's probably the only good thing to come out of the last like 2.5 years, to be honest with you. So it's all good. I'll take it.
Look at that. But yeah, I actually have been. So I listened to. We've like set up like a million times to do a show together, and then, it like for some reason like I always end up falling asleep.
We're on different fucking time zones. That's the other part of it too.
It's so brutal.
Oh right. Oh, can I swear? I don't know if I even asked that question.
Yeah, you're
before.
good.
Okay, cool.
This isn't like, this isn't a show that this is like kind of impromptu and it's late night, right? It's late night.
Yeah, that's why I do like the Hollywood After Dark. Like I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
like say what you want to say. That's fine.
Exactly.
But we do. I mean, we kind of have like a topic tonight. So you made a post the other day.
I did,
and I had been watching Q Into the Storm. When it dropped on HBO Max, and I found that it was really riveting in the sense that I didn't know too much about whether it's QAnon, whether it's Gamergate, whether it's whatever. I didn't know too much about it, and that seemed weird to me. That if this was so present in the light, in the culture, like how did I miss it? And QAnon's still going on. Like QAnon's still happening all the time. Like every day there's new people joining up or, however that happens. And, you made a post the other day and said something that I really respected was that you were sorry for your part in it. So what did you mean by that?
Well, okay. So like, and this has caused, I should say some varied emotions and responses from people, which I find to be very funny because to a lot of people, I'm irrelevant. I don't matter. But I say something about Gamergate and they're all of a sudden like, well, you trying to get relevant again? Like, no, I'm just acknowledging my part in something that happened 7 years ago. So what happened ultimately was I had a video false DMCA'd from a woman named Zoe Quinn.
Okay.
And that is one of many different things that all kind of happened in a short period of time that kind of kicked off Gamergate. And a lot of what it was too was the initial, there was originally a blog post, like a 9-page blog post from Zoe's ex-boyfriend, a guy named Aaron, who accused her of cheating on him with 5 guys.
Oh,
and so it's like 5 guys, burgers and fries was what he called her. And then that meme came out of that. So that's pretty funny. But the thing was though, is at the time, and this was 3 years before Me Too. So
whoa. So 3 years before hashtag Me Too?
Yeah, 3 years before hashtag Me Too. Sorry. And so, a lot of us were talking about it. And I was actually sent the blog post by a game developer friend of mine out of Canada. And she hit me up and she's like, you need to talk about this. This is going to be big.
Okay.
Which I thought was really kind of weird. And even here it is 7 years later. I'm like, she was telling me this is going to be big. And then lo and fucking behold, it was. Wow. Right. Like, all right. Like, I didn't think much of it. I recorded it on my iPhone 3G. I recorded my commentary. That's what I was using to make videos back then.
Wow.
And yeah. Right. And so I made my video and I talked about it. And I even said in the video, I was like, I said, I don't care who she's having sex with. I really don't care. But it's really about like one of the guys that she was reported to have a relationship with was a reporter from Kotaku who had written about her game Depression Quest. And I said like, hey, like, have ethics in this case. Like just do disclosure. Let us know.
Right.
And that's basically what Gamergate was at its core in the beginning. However, a few months into it, it started being co-opted by people on the right. This generally happened after 2 events. One is when Breitbart's tech editor, Milo Yiannopoulos, started becoming pro Gamergate and giving gamers a quote unquote voice and then like legitimizing them. And then also when it got to be so hot, and this was talked about briefly in the documentary, but it got to be so hot that 4chan booted all references to Gamergate. It banned all references to Gamergate.
Okay.
Never mind 4chan, gore, revenge
Right,
porn,
right, right.
doxing, stalking. I mean, like there's the My Little Pony thread where like literally they had a guy who was like famous for putting a fleshlight in a Twilight Sparkle plushie.
Yeah.
You know, like that stuff, totally cool. Totes my goats, all good.
Right.
Ethics and
Gamergate,
games journalism. Whoa, man. Whoa. Now you're going too far. This is the thing. Now, and they kind of alluded to it in the documentary where there was like doxing of journalists that were happening. I don't recall any of that personally, but 4chan is 4chan, you know, so this kind of stuff is going to get around. And I was doxed a year later. So like, I didn't realize at the time how easy it was to dox people. And it really is easy. Your information is sold. And so that's, I think, what a lot of it was. But then it all moved over to 8chan. And that was led in by Frederick Brennan. You know, he kind of embraced it with open arms. And at the time, again, it was like a lot of, you know, there was some pushback. 8chan wasn't what 8chan is known as now.
And 8chan's not even 8chan anymore, is it?
No, it's 8kun. It's 8kun now.
Right?
Yeah, and it's dead. It's dead. At this point, like I think its most popular board is the QAnon research board.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it was when they changed the name, that killed its branding. And they weren't able to, they were trying to play up the Q method, but I think because Trump didn't get reelected, it ended up kind of causing a lot of that to go away.
Right. 'Cause, I mean, that really like, I mean, Trump's really centric to QAnon, right? I mean, I at least from that's what I would assume.
Yeah. Well, Trump always kind of played up that he had nothing, you know, I don't know what it is, but they seem to like me. It's like, dude, come on, you know what it is.
Dude, when they played that little clip where he was like, what was he saying? He was like, Q better believe it. Like, I was like, did he act? It kind of sounds like he did.
Yeah.
But again, it could all be just like frame of like mind and hearing it the right way. It's like the green dress, the blue dress. You know, which way are you listening to it?
And in that context, you are watching a documentary about QAnon, so your mind is thinking
it's already there.
It's already there. Yeah. So I mean, but I don't believe for one second he wasn't aware of it. I don't believe, because there was that one bit in the documentary where they're talking about how he kept retweeting QAnon stuff, and I remember that happening. And I remember there being like a lot of reports like, what the hell is he doing? Retweeting all of this. Like that was when there was a lot of questions about cognitive deficiency. And like, is he just going insane? Like people, you know, and the thing is Trump, so you really have no actual idea. You just have no idea.
Exactly.
But in this, but going back to the whole 8chan thing, so 8chan, you know, people moved over to like the V, right? The video game board, and started kind of doing stuff over there, talking over there. And it was pretty chill, but it wasn't just also 8chan. There was also IRC chat at the time. And IRC chat was like pretty big. That's where you could say, I guess, and I hate to use the fucking term, but like the e-celebs would hang out, right? Where like the influencers would hang out. A lot of the hardcore work was all like the digging and the discussions was all done on the Burger and Fries IRC room, right?
And is that a reference to
Five Guys?
Okay.
Right.
So it's five, because that was the running gag, was Five Guys burgers and fries and stuff like that. And so like, but I mean, you had a moment in time in those first couple days, weeks, whatever, where
Kinky, man. Sorry, Matt. Kinky, I haven't seen your sphincter in a long ass time, man. What's going on, brother? Letting me down, dog. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, it's all good. I know Kinky Sphincter. He hangs out.
Yeah,
a lot.
he always used to show up, and then I
just feel like they need
Snyder
to have
Cut came out, and everyone just disappeared.
Well, no, they've all been on Twitter crying about getting more of it. But that's a whole other conversation for me to dash their dreams. And I want it, but I'm sorry, realism is going to take key here. But really, so it's like, so what happened with me ultimately was the video got DMCA'd, everyone talking about it. But the other big factor here too is that with Zoe Quinn, she was talked about from a couple of other different angles. People were more or less calling her out that weekend. They were talking about it on our gaming, and moderators started deleting comments. We're talking by the tens of thousands.
Oof.
And what we found out was that Zoe Quinn and Patrick Klepek, who at the time worked for Giant Bomb, they're tight, and he's total left-wing type guy. And they were openly communicating with one of the moderators of our gaming on Twitter that Patrick was friends with, and coordinating the deletion of all of these comments. So they're already creating this mass, like censorship thing. And so what does that do? That Streisand affects the hell out of it. And that's for like Total Biscuit. John Bain, before he passed away, unfortunately, he had mentioned it because at the time, like that caught his attention. That was like, he's like, whoa, this is bad. So there's a lot going on with the ethics aspect of it. But when you got Milo involved, and Milo started, you know, he did some stuff, right? Like he found out about the Game Journal Pros list, the email list of game journalists that from competing websites that were coordinating to call out gamers. They all posted these gamers are dead articles all in the same day. Okay. And that pissed off. Like, it came across as very coordinated. Right. Like these are all gaming journalists, by the way, that are attacking the fan bases.
Right, right.
So it just makes it's like, this is absolutely coordinated. And then you found out like they were going to like send Zoe Quinn, like they were going to put together some cash to send her flowers, you know?
Okay.
And all that, like, fine, whatever. But it's just like, okay, come on. You guys are clearly, you know, colluding and coordinating. Well, that information got on out there, and that was something Milo put together because he was, you know, because he was Breitbart. There's, you know, it wasn't a small outlet. And so over the course of then, you had a lot of other like right-leaning individuals coming on in, and a lot of grifters came on into the mix, and people were like trying to raise money for like their own gaming podcasts. They were trying to like raise money for whatever. I mean, I had a Patreon that I started a year before all of this, and I was getting constant shit for having a fucking Patreon. Right. That is a year old, you know? And like, I never really shilled it, but it was just kind of like, it was all that nonsense. And so what we started noticing was, as these ops started kind of playing out, and there's a lot of it was targeting websites, like targeting Gawker. Targeting Gawker's like BMW and other advertisers. And a lot of people wanted like all the journalists fired. There was a very large vocal contingent of cancel culture people in the early days of Gamergate. And that was one of the things where I had my first kind of beef with them, is like, I never called for the cancellation of anyone. I never called for a boycott of advertisements. I've never found those tactics to be useful.
Okay.
Right.
You know, if you want to engage in a conversation. But the downside to that, though, is that the other side didn't want to, because you had ego, right? And you had the ability for them to play the victim card, which they did all the time on Twitter. Oh, I'm being attacked. Oh my God. It's like 5 people.
Right.
Right. It's one of those, like, you know, the minority has the loudest voice, you know, type thing. They're making a bigger noise than everybody thinks.
So, I'm sorry. So, all right. So where we're at right now, are you at the point where you're at your largest, or did it kind of coincide? Because like I said, I'm not asking like an asshole. I'm literally just trying to follow the story on, because like we had, you know, I know who you are, right? I knew who you were before this.
That sounds so ominous. I know who you are.
I know who you are.
Like, hey.
But I mean, because you know, we kind of made not a name for ourselves, but the Snyder Cut helped us because we were covering it, right? Did this maybe help you? You had something to talk about a lot. You were knowledgeable of it, and you know, reported on it maybe more frequently than, you know, someone who just doesn't know too much. Like I'm trying to figure out if this, where we are in that story, like where we are in your YouTube career.
Oh, this is all 2014. This is 2014. So it's like, you know, my first video on the Snyder Cut was November 24th, 2017.
Right.
You know, because and the reason why I know that is I just recently went and looked. Okay. So, you know, not that I remember a lot of details, but that was one I had to go back and look up. Well, no. So at the time, I only had, I think when Gamergate started, I had, oh man, I want to say like 6,000 subs, 7,000. Like, it was small, right? It was small, and even for 2014, that was still small. Right. And then it jumped up to like 22,000, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And, you know, it took me about a year and a half after that to crack 100K. You know, and then my height of everything was about 163,000 before the summer, before August 2018.
Okay.
So, you know, and that whole situation. And now I'm down to like 120. So it's kind of a, I've dropped a lot. It's fine though.
We've actually talked about that though, and how that potentially benefits the algorithm.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, like I'm asking for a specific reason, and it's just really. I tell people to unsubscribe all the time, and they're like, why? And I'm just like, it just breaks their brain. They have no idea why I do what I do. So I just kind of like act crazy, even though everything I'm like, if you ask me, I would tell you.
Right.
And they just kind of freak out. It's funny. I love it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, people don't understand. They just don't get it. They think they do, because they spend a lot of time on YouTube, but YouTube is a lot more than just watching videos.
Yes, it is.
So there's a lot more to it than that. And I understand. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but I do understand it.
I would say you understand it.
Yeah, so it's like, so there's all that. And then, but yeah, so all this shit happened in like 2014.
Okay. So I guess that's what the question I was asking is what year are we taking place?
Yeah, it ain't recent. It ain't recent, dude. It's it's like
So
7 years ago this August.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to side trail there, but continue. I guess if you can remember where you were, I don't.
Well. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. It was really in those first few months that there was a lot going on. But one of the things we had was a lot of people coming on into the fray.
Okay.
And they came on into the fray, I think in many cases because there was a lot of gamers that wanted to feel like they were being represented. Because at the time you did have the whole Anita Sarkeesian situation. And that had been going on already at this point for 2.5 years.
And what is that?
So Anita Sarkeesian is a feminist game critic who first came to prominence in March. No. It was in like late May 2012, where she had launched this like $6,000 GoFundMe for her critique series, Tropes v Women in Video Games. Right, like it's supposed to be 6 episodes, and because people like myself criticized it, it did get the attention of a lot of these left-leaning journalists that wanted to protect one of their own. And so they wrote about the harassment campaigns, because that happens all the time, right? I mean, look at the Snyder Cut and all the articles about the toxic fandom, and you're like, fucking where?
Right.
Like, where is it? Oh, was it that one guy with like an anonymous account, like that just opened yesterday?
Yeah, he has one follower, and
yeah.
The guy who attacked you or said that weird stuff to you today.
Yeah, who the fuck was that guy, right?
Dude,
like
he had one follower. No one's ever liked one of his posts.
Yeah. And he messages me about like my mom sucking his dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that really aggravated me actually.
Oh, that's lighthearted, man. People have sent me photos. Have you ever heard of a cum tribute?
No.
Oh God.
So a cum tribute is something that generally happens to women on the internet, where like if it like a streamer or a YouTuber or whatever, and like someone will take a picture of them, and then they'll ejaculate on it, and they'll take a picture of that, and they send it to them. It's called the cum tribute. Wow. I've had cum tribute sent to me on more than one occasion. On more than one occasion.
I love it.
Well, unless there is some seriously thick ejaculate coming out of a chick.
I guess that's kind of implied. Yeah. God, shows up. I'm so fucking out of it, man.
Right? Yeah, it was more like a map of Hawaii and not just like an archipelago. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's so when you get to that level and people are sending you that kind of weird stuff. How long did it take for you to get, like, I guess, used to it? Because you're really nonchalant about it now.
Yeah. Well, I've been like, it's so weird. I mean, because I've had 2.5 years of shit, right, since the flagging stuff. And so you just get to a point where you just.
To what point?
Uh-oh.
He'll be back. 1 second.
There we go. StreamYard. I
Actually, right during our side note, during our Falcon Winter Soldier watch party last night. No offense, Nicotina, I wasn't trying to steal your audience, but we were watching it and just internet went down. So now, rough. It's always so rough.
StreamYard's been pretty rough this week, which is pretty funny because they just had that big conference yesterday.
Yeah.
That symposium thing, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I'm like, why don't you work on your infrastructure? Ever since they migrated to this new server, it's been a little bit wonky.
Yeah, and the other day, like Facebook, it wouldn't let you include Facebook because it was saying that this was, it would tell you your description had something wrong in it, but then you would look through your description and be like, I didn't even include that symbol that you're telling me I included,
Right.
and it wouldn't let you. You know what I mean? Simple things like that, but I have quite the gripe with StreamYard about their price tiers. That the fact that it goes from $25 and you get everything, but you're streaming in 720. And the next tier up is 50 something dollars, 52 or something like that. And the only thing more you get is you get to stream in HD basically. And you can stream to 2 extra platforms.
Yeah. It's, I have that because I bought the deal like over the summer. They had a pretty good deal. I won't be renewing that deal. Yeah. I don't need to be in 1080. It still looks pretty crappy in 1080. It'll be better in like in
OBS
a year.
is, I think, far better.
Well, OBS is far better, but the functionality of being able to kind of just dive in and go.
Right, all in one place.
Yeah,
that's
I
what
like that quite
StreamYard's
a bit,
really
yeah.
convenient for.
So the good does outweigh the bad. Yeah, the good outweighs the bad, but it's like 720p is fine.
Yeah.
Because honestly, most people watch from their mobile devices these days anyway. And so like the vast majority of people watch from mobile devices. And this is going to be on their phone. So even in 720p.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It's like, I guess it's like to myself, I was like, oh, like I feel like I'm not streaming to my capabilities. I'm not in HD when I could be, yada yada. And like I made it a big deal to myself and in my head. And like once I do that, it's a wrap. Like if I don't get it, I'm just gonna be thinking about it for however much longer I'm doing it. And
I had the same problem. I bought like the Sony ZV-1 last year, and it's like it's a great camera. It's easy to use, but I'm like, do I fucking need this thing? It was like $800,
Yeah, probably not. $300-$400 camera, save 400. But yeah, I definitely feel you on that. So
yeah, well, I know I see Bruno here is really trying to like talk about Medicare. We're not really talking about like Medicare's involvement was he made a video. He was under the name Internet Aristocrat. He did like he did 2 videos about the situation. Those videos ended up getting to Adam Baldwin, the actor from the movie or from the TV show Firefly. Okay. And he's the one who coined the term Gamergate. But after that, Jim didn't do much because he quit like a month and a half later, and he made a big fucking deal about quitting. And then even quoted Hitler on his way out the fucking door. So, and he quit because he felt people were being too grifty is why he quit. So we're not even talking about Medicare. Like, again, we're talking about the overview of this, but you holding on to that, Bruno, tells me that this is a cult of personality thing. It's like he did his stuff. Absolutely. But then he quit because he got really pissed off at everybody.
Okay. So who is Mr.
He's gone under multiple names.
Okay.
All right. He's gone under multiple names. Now at the time in 2014 he was going as Internet Aristocrat for a couple years. Okay. And then he quit. He literally quit. Doing like he called out Gamergate, called it all terrible. Said everyone's grifting basically, quoted Hitler, left. And then he reappeared like middle of or like April, May of 2015 under the name Mr. Medicare. So he rebranded himself, and he's and now the Medicare channel is gone from YouTube. Okay. It got booted. He's not even really doing much anymore outside of tweeting. He's also got, I think, cancer. Oh, geez. And it's like it's terminal, but it's like 15 years. So I think he's just, if anything, at this point in time, he's probably just chilling the hell out, right? And whatever. So, but again, people like to go back to that because he was like kind of like he was a big name in it all. And he is a big entity on the internet, certain parts of it. That is true. But the core aspect of what that was, Jim was the culture war, was also part of the culture war. He wanted you to attack the journalists. He wanted you to go after the leftists. Okay. That's what he ultimately wanted. A lot of us got kind of sucked up into that. Not to say that I wasn't critical of feminism and social justice warriors at the time, because I totally was. But it was also like it just ended up ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And the further we got towards the end of 2014, the more stuff, because the more the press pushed back, the more things escalated and escalated, you know, and commentary wise. Not like people were doing anything bad, but there was always talks of harassment. There was always talks of doxing. But because all this was done anonymously, you literally have no idea if the person doxed themselves and then claimed that they were doxed. And there's one person that I think did that actually.
So I'm gonna pretend I'm the audience, right? And so what is doxing?
Doxing is just like posting someone's personal private information on the internet.
And maybe so we can have a little side conversation. Now, why do you think that could be a bad thing to do to somebody? Right.
Well,
now, why? What are the reasons? Right. Especially if you're an internet personality or you're someone who has done a pretty good job of keeping your name, your real name off the internet. Right. You go buy a different name on the internet, you know, just to keep, you know, business and pleasure separate. And then someone you thought you were close with, mind you, or maybe someone that you know, trusted, sells your information and then it gets out there somehow. Now, why could that be a bad thing?
Well, I mean, so when I was doxxed, right?
Right.
So in 2015, I was doxxed. They found out like where I lived, and they emailed me like threatening to release it unless I stopped talking to somebody that I was friends with, which I thought was really weird. In which case I showed my face and said my name, and I said, all right, I'm not going to let them have that power over me.
Right.
The following year, or actually it was like 6 months later, I was swatted. Which is when the SWAT team comes to your home with guns.
Oh my God. Holy, whoa.
That happened to me in March of 2016.
Wow.
Like right
For
before
what reason?
I don't know. I don't know who did it.
That's a whole nother thing. That's like, you know.
So someone probably called them and said that you have like.
No, here's what they told them. They called the police and they told the police that I had bombs strapped to my kids' necks. Yeah. I didn't have kids at the time.
Yeah.
But they said that I had kids and that I had put bombs around their necks. I was going to blow them up. And then they waited a few minutes and they called back and they said shots fired. Jeez. And that mobilized at that point, the SWAT team had to act. And so they shut down the corresponding streets next to my apartment. They blocked off.
Like, even though now like shit like that gets me real aggravated, right? Because even though you didn't have kids at the time, even though you didn't do that, your neighbors are now like, huh?
Right.
What's going on there?
Yeah. I mean, I lived in an apartment, and at the time, most of my neighbors weren't home, and I didn't really talk to them after the fact either.
Probably.
Look at that. You're still like trying to like, oh, no, you know, it's not that bad. But like for me, I'm like, motherfucker.
More angry than the neighbors.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong.
It's a good thing the cops didn't bust and start shooting. You know,
the thing is like they heard me I was recording a video. Right. And they heard me recording the video. So they pounded on the window. And then I was like, what the fuck? And I got up and I walked outside, and I was wearing like an Avengers t-shirt and like sleep pants. It was like 3 p.m.
Right.
And I opened the door and I had like a little alcove, so I couldn't see either way down the hallway. And I hear Beaverton Police Department, come out with their hands up. And I'm like, I go, are you guys talking to me? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me shut the door. I have cats. Cause I had 5 cats at the time.
Doesn't sound like someone who's...
Yeah, right. And so I come out and I put my hands up where they can see them. And I go and I out on the edge of the thing. And I start walking out. And as I turn the corner, I see all the SWAT guys. And like someone has a shotgun pointed in my face, right?
Wow.
And so like I let out this sound that I've never made before in my entire life. Like this, whatever. It was like wailing. I didn't know what to do. My legs froze up. Everything shut down.
Yeah.
You have never, and I'm telling you this because I've had it happen in a different way. You don't know what fear is until you don't know if you're going to make it out of that moment. Because it's really, really scary. And
it's very weird, and it's very surreal. And the best way to describe it is it fucks with you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I never found out who did it. I've never even heard the audio recording. because they called non-emergency dispatch. The audio recording exists. The authorities have it. But the thing was, it took another like 2 years for another swatting to end with a guy who was completely unassociated, but just happened to be the person who walked out of the house that it was called on, and he was shot and killed.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
And, you know, I think his name is Andrew Finch or something. It was out of Wichita. And so I view the swatting as attempted murder.
Absolutely.
And the guy who did that one was a real piece of shit out of LA who got busted. He's now serving 20 years for it.
I mean, you know what? I have no sympathy. Like, I don't have any, like, yeah, maybe that's too deep. Nope. That's just about right, honestly. Because you're right that, you know, something goes wrong, right? The smallest thing. We see it every single day in the news. I mean, thank God you're not, you know, a person of color, honestly.
Yeah.
And that, I'm not saying that in like an ironic way. I'm not saying that.
I get it. I'm a geeky white dude.
Right.
You know, like,
good thing. Because, you know, that's the world that could, you know, I don't like to get like too political about it, but like, honestly, if someone did that to someone, a person of color, like, you know, maybe they wouldn't have taken that extra second. And that's scary. That's really is like, you know, that's your life.
And not only that, the thing is it's happened to, you know, it's done to kids too. I think there was like a 14 or 15-year-old that it happened to, and he ended up getting, I don't know if he died, but he got shot, you know, he was injured. So
there's a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, in the last year, it's definitely like slowed down a lot. And I think like ever since the guy got busted for doing it, it's slowed down because now we're talking about like a 20-year.
Yeah, they've been shown the penalty.
Yeah, right. It's like 20 years, you know, is like for this kind of shit, and the fact that really somebody now died. Yeah, is it worth it to get a laugh? Because in that case, it boiled down to like I think $1.75 Call of Duty bet was ultimately the cost of this father of two's life. You know, right. And so it's like it's all terrible shit, and so that happened in 2016.
Okay, so now we're 2 years after.
Yeah. And by this point in time, well, there's other aspects of it as well. Generally speaking, to most of us who were in Gamergate from the beginning, we view August 2015 as being relatively the end. Okay. So what happened was someone had reached out to the Society of Professional Journalists and had contacted them about these ethical concerns. And the SPJ looked at the complaints and determined, gamers in this situation are very, accurate in making these claims that there are unethical practices because you have people who are sleeping together and that they're writing about each other and they're not disclosing that. Because this is enthusiast press. It's not treated with any kind of ethical jurisdiction or oversight. There's no ombudsman for these websites, you know. Half the time there's not even a fucking editor. IGN is known for just like not even having an editor. Like these blog posts will go up that are just so hastily written that there's grammatical errors and punctuation errors and all this kind of shit.
And our fingers have evolved.
Yeah. And they just kind of like, they don't care because who cares? You know, they get so much traffic a month. Who gives a shit?
Right.
So what SPJ did is they put on an event called SPJ Airplay. And the idea was it was a one-day event in Miami, Florida in August of 2015, where you would have like, I think Milo Yiannopoulos was there. A number of other people were there and they were talking about ethics in journalism. They're talking about all of these things. And to a lot of us at that time, that felt like this is it, because clearly the SPJ, who is a respected organization, they have taken up our cause. They have acknowledged it. They have done a whole day's event on it. And by the way, that day's event kept getting shut down with bomb threats.
My God,
you know, like frequent bomb threats. Yeah, I opted to not go. I was gonna fly out there, but I opted to not go.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, it's Florida, so like, good luck ever getting me to fucking Florida. Outside of Orlando, but that's probably not for a few years. Yeah. And you know, but other than that, I was like, hey, I'm good. I don't need to go. So you know,
I'm sorry, I may have missed this part, but who's this Milo that that Jack keeps mentioning?
Milo,
right? Yeah. So I've mentioned Jack. I mentioned Milo before you got here. So there's that. But so basically, Milo Yiannopoulos was the tech editor for Breitbart.
Oh, and Breitbart is owned by
The Mercers, I believe, are the primary funders of that right now. Steve Bannon
Bannon
also
was the original,
yeah,
and
it
he
was
backed
one yeah.
out at one. Okay, I
He
remember
got
him.
yeah, he backed out. I think he was also kind of forced out of Breitbart.
Okay,
That had a lot to do with when he had a falling out with the Donald Trump organization.
right.
When he walked away from being the senior advisor, or was ousted, I guess.
At the same time, he left Breitbart.
At the same, yeah.
Right.
So he got kind of double fucked. But what happened was though, is there were leaked emails that came out a while later after all the stuff with Milo went down. Because Milo also, by the way, like he got railroaded out of the conservative movement. Mm-hmm. So what you have to understand about Milo was very flamboyantly gay, but that was he was very, very Oscar Wilde. And that was
really open about it. And like, kind of, it was like, he used it kind of.
Well, he would go to these events and he would openly, talk to people about like banging his, his boyfriend who's got a huge black dick. And that's like the thing he would bring up quite often, So he was like, look, I'm not a moral Puritan. Yeah. He's like, I'm not a moral Puritan. I'm one of you guys. I just happen to like, all this
I just
stuff.
like the other one.
I just, I like the other dark meat, I guess. And so that was a big thing with a lot of gamers. They liked Milo because he legitimized them. He gave them a voice. And he seemed to care. The thing is, though, is Milo also had a hell of an ego. And this is what Bannon lost control of. So Bannon sent him in there to co-opt the movement because Bannon wanted to use this as a way, as more or less the start of like a political party or having political sway online with gamers. Right? Mm-hmm. Because we're pretty, not that we're susceptible, but it's like we get pretty aggravated over shit and like we can organize.
Yeah.
Half of our hobby is spent trying to solve puzzles. You know what I mean? So it's like we're kind of adept at that.
Okay, guess what you just said though. Guess what did you just say? We spend half our time trying to solve puzzles. What does Q do? He drops puzzles. So do you think that so there's been this like, not to like sidetrack again, but this is kind of like going in a sequential order, but there's been several of these, groups or things that happen that try to make a political party, like kind of like what you just said. And QAnon, like, is really, I find, at least for me, seeing what it is the one that is probably going to stick around the longest.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, right? Like Q drops these like ominous little things that people have to try to solve and figure out. And do you think they're playing into that thing that you just said?
Well, I think look at the other part of the documentary. They mentioned Cicada 3301, right? And like that's an old school internet myth. Right? That was an old school internet thing.
Right.
And I was laughing my ass off when that part came up.
I don't know what that is.
As soon as I saw the fucking moth, I'm all like, it's Cicada. Right? Like, how does this tie in? And then I was like, ooh, because I feel like that documentary series was literally made for me.
You said that to me, and I was like,
and because I've been so involved in this shit for years, and like I just know a lot of it. So that's why I was like 6 hours, like I'll watch the goddamn thing again. You know what I mean? And so really with the part of it was, I think, trying to get people organized and angry, but then weaponize them. And so what the biggest thing is in these leaked emails we found out from Bannon, like Milo would Bannon would chide Milo over what Milo was doing. He's like, why are you doing this? This isn't necessary. And it's because Milo was this is where you get like kind of like Frankenstein's monster situation where he sent him in there and then he became so popular. Like when Milo hit 100,000 Twitter followers, he threw a fucking party for himself in London where he had people cosplay as Milo.
Oh my god!
I am not kidding you. And so he wanted to be he wanted to be the extravagant Oscar Wilde type.
If I can get successful enough where I can throw a party where I tell people that they have to cosplay as me, I'm gonna retire at that moment.
Yeah,
right
but that was
right
but that was
moment.
That was the thing, is that was kind of like, that was, his ego at mass impact was in 2016, because, and part of my terminology here, but this is true. He went on a multi-state, multi-college tour in the summer of 2016 called the Dangerous Faggot Tour.
Oh my God.
And you know, and the whole point of this was to more or less rally up MAGA supporters, because at this point in time he was full on Trump. He would call
Right.
Trump daddy. This was, you know, this was before the election. This is the summer before the election. He was really, and this was a big Bannon push as well. You can kind of see the through line here, where they were, you know, a lot of these guys that were like into, you know, these like trad caths, right? These hardcore traditional types were like flocking around a very exuberantly eccentric gay man, you know, who said feminism was bad, and they loved him for it, you know? So it's kind of a weird thing, but Milo got, in my opinion, such a big ego that it ultimately led to his downfall in, I think it was 2017, like right after Trump got inaugurated. They were going to have CPAC, and Milo was going to be a headliner at CPAC. This is a big thing for him.
Yeah.
This would have been a big thing. And then he was on like this one group called the Reagan Project, or like the Reagan something or another, who were actually associated with Evan McMillan, who was a presidential candidate only in Utah in 2016 as a way to like thwart Donald Trump from getting the electoral college votes in that state. But he's also a former CIA operative. So this whole thing felt like a total leading into like the week before this clip surfaces from Milo being drunk on a podcast called The Drunken Peasants, who at the time were based in Seattle. And I know all those guys. And they talked about like Milo was talking about, you know, priests and, you know, young boys, because he said he was molested at a young age by a priest, and how it's kind of okay for like young gay men to have like a tutor, like an older male tutor that teaches them the ropes about being gay. And like, so people took that as being like pro pedophilic. It definitely wasn't good. You know, he made some jokes, off color stuff, but it tanked his entire career. I mean, literally tanked his entire career. And so like he got up there and he like had to go and issue an apology, and then like they dropped him from Breitbart, and they dropped him from everything.
Right.
And then he just went away for a while. Now you find out, by the way, he's no longer gay. Just
right,
recently,
I just saw that, by the way.
Yeah, just recently he came out and said he's going
How
to like
can you
church
be
again.
ex-gay?
Gay conversion therapy. He's talked about supporting it.
Oh,
There's
man.
hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me process that.
Oh, don't tell me you don't know.
Therapy to ungay yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. Because he like, and the whole joke though, the thing is though, like it's all an act, right? It's not real. Because because his husband, he was married to a guy, and he's like, my husband was demoted to roommate, and which he doesn't like very much, but I make enough to keep him in Porsches and like fancy clothing every year, which isn't true at all, because he's not doing anything. I mean, he released a book called Dangerous at the height of his career, at the height of everything, his popularity. He releases this like Simon and Schuster.
Matt, we keep losing you, man.
There we go.
Sorry, I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's all right, man. It happens, dude. And it happens to me more than anyone else in the world.
I'll close out some.
Ask
browsers.
Nicotina. I used to have serious
I just blame
issues
Nicotina
over
for
here.
everything.
Yeah,
so
literally,
that's
it's
how
just
you have
him.
to do it. Yeah.
His channel, it's like it's got bad juju.
Well, that happens, you know. Good old Nicotina.
I love him.
Yeah, I like Andre a lot. But shit, what was I saying? It was
so he wrote a book in his
yeah.
It's dangerous.
Right. So this book comes out, and the thing is, it was mostly like just his essays that he had written for Breitbart. That was mostly it. It wasn't a lot of new material.
compiled
Yeah, but here's the kicker, and this is true. They were all ghostwritten.
Wow.
Yeah, they were all ghostwritten. He had a bunch of writers, and he never credited them. They never got any credit, and I don't even think many of them got paid, if I recall correctly. So like, again, his ego was everywhere, right? It was everywhere, and it ended up taking him out, and it ended up really taking him down in that whole incident in 2017. So then he's out of the way. But when these emails leaked out about Bannon, we started to see this idea. We started to see the where Gamergate was intending to go from the right wing perspective, because clearly, even though there was a hashtag, a sub hashtag within Gamergate called Not My Shield, and Not My Shield was I feel probably the most important hashtag of that whole thing, because what it was is it was people who were women and minorities that were like at the journalists saying like, no, you don't get to speak for me. You don't get to speak for us. Like you know, because they were trying to hide behind the veneer of social justice, right? Like, oh,
Right.
how it all works out. And these people were always fighting back against that because they felt like their voices are being taken away by these journalists who clearly don't care. And most of them are affluent white people.
Right.
So, you know, and so
Always.
that's a big one. And then, what was the other one? There's like a few other things that were happening at the time. What else
I
happened?
can't believe that though.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
So I mean, this kid was, so he was like really fake the whole time. It was all
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it was all just a,
Most of it was a lot of it was LARPing from people. You had the people like the foot soldiers, right? Like, okay, like I'll just equate it to you like this. There's a lot of people who are fans of the Snyder Cut, like the people who are on Twitter, the passionate fans that are passionate fans. And then you've got people out there who are the influencers who have come into it who there's a few of them that are a bit more shady than others. Let's just put it like that. Okay.
okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's some people out there that have been exposed as being less other than honorable. And you know, and it's a known thing and some people acknowledge it, others don't, but it is what it is. And we, you know, and a lot of it came in from like the scoop game is a big part of it. The people that were telling you you're getting everything you ever want in the world, that kind of stuff. My favorite, you know, was like, yeah, and I won't go into it because I'm not trying to cause any shit, but you get people that are like that, where they come on in and they find a niche, right? Whether it be Marvel or DC or whatever, Star Wars, whatever. And they find that niche and then they pump that niche and they mine it because it's very ripe and they can get a lot out of it, for very minimal work. And that is a lot of what happened with Gamergate. People that would come on in and they would just kind of try to become these leaders. One guy, his name is King of Pole. Pole is the politically incorrect board on 4chan, by the way.
Okay.
And so he was hanging out there. And this is like, again, like I think maybe September, October 2014, kind of going back. And this guy fired up a live stream on a website called hitbox.tv, which was, it's no longer around. But he started talking about Gamergate. And because he was live streaming about it, and it happened to get everyone's attention, because at the time people were looking for like people to talk and like to get out there. He had about 5,000 people watching him. And he brought in like every, I guess you could say, influencer or thought leader inside. Like I was on there, Medicare was on there, Adam Baldwin was on there. A lot of other people popped up on there.
Adam Baldwin?
Yeah, Adam Baldwin. Yeah, him and I got drunk once in San Diego. In the winter of 2014. He calls me, he hits me up on Twitter, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in San Diego for the next couple of days. Do you want to go get drunk?" And I'm like,
with you, of course,
"Yeah,
man.
yeah." We went out to a bar and got pretty shit faced.
That's awesome. Because of that.
Yeah,
like that's how you met him.
That's how I met him, because he's the one who coined the term Gamergate. So like people were like looking to Adam Baldwin as being this kind of like, you know, like, oh, we have a Hollywood actor on our side. I mean, I like Adam quite a bit. Dude's a hardcore conservative, right? Like he's even, you know, come out against like LGBT marriage and shit like that. And like a lot of people got really mad at him for it. And you know, but I don't think he's a bad guy. He's got his opinions that I don't agree with, but you know, we can see eye to eye on other stuff. And, but yeah, so like Adam Baldwin was there and like a bunch of people, but this King of Pole guy kind of started becoming like the stream king of Gamergate. And he would do streams like for like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And because he'd get like, you know, 3,000 people watching him every time he went live, he was kind of the go-to guy for that.
Right.
But then in like November of 2014, he got really drunk on a live stream and started questioning the numbers of the Holocaust. And that canceled him. Just canceled him.
Oh boy.
What's fast? Yeah, you can't do that. And you can't do that at all. And the thing was like, but at the end there, like by the end, this guy wasn't sleeping. He did the overnight shift at he did.
So he was like part delusional at that point.
Yeah. He was going. And then even a few weeks after that, he made this live stream where he was claiming I was trying to like kill him. You know? And like, yeah. He's like, oh, like he's like Mundane Matt's trying to like have me killed or something like that. And he made this big, I woke up in the morning and I had like all these people furious at me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I started watching his live stream to see what he was saying. And like none of what he was showing as evidence, my name was nowhere near it. Wasn't on it. I'm like, what are you doing? You're saying I'm involved in this stuff. But like, I guess somebody had got his address and like sent him a letter in the mail saying like, kill yourself or something. So that's
you
another.
took that, yeah.
So he took that, and like, I don't know if he associated that with me or whatever. It's been so long, but like, it was weird. And so a lot of people, like, again, they kind of came on in, and he got kind of canceled over that, and he never really recovered as a result of that. But so it just, because there was no central leader, there was no real like central game plan. Everyone is kind of running these ops, It was like I forget some of the operations. There's a ton of operations. Some were interesting, some weren't. I mean, like, they went after Gawker's advertisers, because Gawker was heavily against Gamergate. And so like when Gawker went away, man, people were cheering, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now Gawker's coming back, by the way. They just announced that the other day. So
wow.
Gawker is returning. Great. But I mean, there's so much that, like, so many little things that happen, so many big things that happen. But really the idea there was like, it just kept moving further and further away from ethics and pushing into the culture war, And the thing was, though, the people on the other side, like Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, they were using that as a way to bait more donations. So in the fall of 2014, like, Anita was, she had claimed that, so she was going to speak at a university in Utah, and somebody wrote a letter. It was obviously fake. And they wrote a letter talking about how they were going to like shoot up the school because she was going to be there. And so the school like because Utah has like an open carry policy, and that even extends to, I guess, like, schools. And so like the university had an open carry policy, and Anita was like, can you not do that? And they said, no, we're not going to infringe on the rights of our citizens. So she canceled the event, which I completely understand.
I would too.
I mean, I laughed at her at the time for it because I was kind of being a dick, but like, I get it now more than I did then. And so it's like, all that kind of shit. So then she ended up going to like the fucking UN, dude. Like, her and Zoe Quinn went to the United Nations to complain about Gamergate.
Wow.
Right.
So now we're getting literal, like, we're getting national attention at this point.
Yeah.
If not international attention.
And so, well, it wasn't like it was that big. There was a congresswoman out of Boston that was kind of taking up the cause to help out, and it was also to further her political career because online harassment was a thing. But nothing came from them going to the UN. At one point, Zoe Quinn wrote a book called Crash Override, in which I am libeled, or I'm slandered 3 times in that book, not by name, but by
associate. I see
by designation. Because my old avatar was a skull, right? A little blue skull. So she called me little blue skull guy and all this crap, and made up a bunch of crap. But it was this, so she had written this book, and then we find out that like Amy Pascal, the former head of Sony Pictures, she had optioned the book for a movie.
No.
They were going to do a Gamergate movie of this thing, and. Yeah. And then
or like a documentary.
No, it would have been a movie. It would have been a movie.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah.
And then the rumor was that Scarlett Johansson was being sought to play Zoe Quinn.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no.
I'm assuming they don't look similar.
No, they don't. People were going like, "Oh, who's gonna play you, Matt, in the movie? Like, are they gonna get Kevin Smith to play you in the movie?"
Oh, I'm dead. I'm dead.
I would have been great. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'll play myself, man. I'll take a paycheck.
Yeah. Right.
But it's just like the whole thing. There's so many things that happened with it. But it ultimately went nowhere. It just went nowhere. It just kind of phased out. People were using it for their own personal gain. And a lot of us who were involved in the early days, those of us who are more like, let's say, left leaning than others, we started to see through the cracks, and we were kind of like, happy it was done. That's why I said like the 2015 at that Airplay event was basically what kind of killed it, what ended it for us. But people do want to keep it going, and that again was someone like Steve Bannon, because he wanted to use it as a way to further, to help get Trump elected. Which, look, I'm not going to lie, I think actually had an influence. I don't think it had much of one, but I think that there were like people out there who, like, because meme warfare was pretty big for the 2016 presidential election. And there's one thing that gamers can do. They can meme. You know, they can joke. 4chan, Reddit is all, Twitter is all meme culture.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like all that shit came from somewhere and everything else. But the craziest thing was this. So fast forward to fall 2018. All right. Like I had my big fallout a few months earlier. And all of a sudden, Steve Bannon pops back up. But he pops up over on Sargon of Akkad's channel. Now, Sargon and I started off on Gamergate around the same time.
Okay.
We've been friends. I've hung out with him multiple times. I like Carl. We disagree now heavily on politics, but I still like Carl. And the thing is, like, he scored this interview with Steve Bannon right after Bannon kind of left America.
Wow.
And then after that, you know, Sargon is like, you know, doing a live stream and he starts talking about trying to get Donald Trump to tweet about Gamergate.
Oh, Lord.
I'm not kidding you. He really wanted to get Donald Trump to tweet about Gamergate to kind of reignite the culture war on that front.
Wow.
Now, unless he was losing relevance, which wasn't the case because he was growing still as a channel,
Right.
there'd be no reason to kickstart something that was 4 years old at that point, unless there was a political reason.
Yeah.
Now, also at the same time, Sargon started teaming up with UKIP, the UK Independent Party, and he started trying to run for office. Now, UKIP backed him implicitly, never mind terrible optics that came out constantly, and his refusal to acknowledge fault or to like try to make amends or to smooth it over. He tried going full Trumpian to get elected into parliament, and he lost miserably.
Okay.
And in fact, it tanked the UKIP party. Like it legitimately killed the UKIP party. Was Sargon running for office. And I'm telling you, Bannon was heavily active at that time in that region. And I think that, and I haven't asked him directly, you know, and one day I will, but like, you know, I think there was some overlap there because right after the interview with Steve Bannon, Sargon was doing a live stream and he starts talking about, again, trying to get Trump to tweet about Gamergate. And he goes like, what if we get Mundane Matt? So me, what if we get Mundane Matt to go on to Tucker Carlson and to explain Gamergate to the normies? So he was heavily trying to get Gamergate 2.0 to start.
To start.
And he wanted to bring me in. Now at the time, because I was at like my lowest and that around that point in time.
Maybe you considered it.
I totally considered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, look, I'm not a fucking moron. Like I would laugh in Tucker Carlson's face over a number of issues, but if I could set the record straight about ethics versus harassment, I would gladly do it.
Right.
You know, because I still believe in the ethics part. But again, everything else that had happened, you can kind of see where things are, you know? And so I was like, yeah, sure. Totally. I would totally do it. And I there was a joke I'd heard online where I said something like trigger the libs, own the libs. And like, people think like they've memed that to me. Like it was I'm like, that's not mine, but I heard it somewhere and I just repeated it and whatever, but clearly it never happened. Clearly I never went on Tucker Carlson, but the idea was there. They were trying to reignite Gamergate in order to, I think, to continue. Like, I think this is also right around the midterm elections here in the States. And coming into, if they could reignite Gamergate in 2018, it could be a force to be reckoned with by 2020, especially given the rise of the alt-right and everything. Because like, you know, what I found out in 2018 was Richard fucking Spencer was following me on Twitter. I'm a Bernie Sanders supporting fucking lefty.
Right.
Like, why the hell is the guy who started the alt-right movement here in this country or proliferated it? Why is he following me?
Right.
You know, like some serious, like, I mean, we're talking like even people who were like in the Identity Europa movement, like the full on, the nationalists guys, like they were following me. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I block, right? As soon as I find this shit out. But like, I mean, so like there was like what I feel was like this undercurrent that was coming in, that they were trying to once again weaponize gamers and get that going and maybe get the band back together. Now, I don't have any like a hardcore proof of any of this, but it's like, but you know, I pay attention.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah, I pay attention and I'm pretty observational. So it's not hard to kind of put the pieces together to see where things might be going. Right. And the truth of the matter is, like, after that, I wanted like nothing to do with any of that shit because it's like, it's all a fucking mess. And here it is 7 years later. and you get this documentary that is so speaking to things that I was like directly in part of, and also ran adjacent to that. Like, you know, because I messaged Frederick after the movie, and I introduced myself, and he fucking and he knows me.
Yeah, this is what we talked about the other night, you and I. But when we first talked about doing this, that's how we led our conversation, and I was like, that's so he knows you.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I think we already said this, but Frederick Brennan is a creator of 8chan, which he ended up fighting against 8chan towards the end after selling it. What's their names that he sold it to?
Jim and Ron Watkins.
Yes, who are, you know, I didn't mind Ron, but Jim's a real weirdo.
Ron seems like the kind of guy like you would like. It would be fun to hang out with and just to see what he says.
Right, like he'd bring you to the massage parlor or whatever it was.
The soap den. Yeah, the soap den. I Googled that. I'm like, what's a soap den? Like I Googled it and like I just found this Wikipedia article about prostitution in Japan. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. He just the guy that was doing the documentary like brought him there as like
what I love about that is that like he implies that he went and that he did it. Like, you know, like it was a right.
He's very straight up about it too, and he's like, you know, he's like he definitely is like, and I did it because like you know it will show him that he could trust me. Like he wanted us to know he did it for us.
yeah. Like
he got whacked off for me. All right, cool.
I don't know. It's definitely more than that. So
yeah,
it's definitely more than that. He based upon what I read, it was definitely more. Okay. So, you know, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you could probably ask, I mean, looking at what Frederick's response or his expression was.
Right. To the did he take you there? Yeah.
Yeah. And like, oh, you know, like that freeze frame on his face, like, hi, my name is Frederick Brendan. And you might be asking yourself how I got to this place.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yep.
So there's definitely like a lot there. And so, yeah, I made my tweet about it, and I'll admit, like, it was 2:30 in the morning. I was exhausted and I was emotional, right? Like cause like the thing is the insurrection bothered me on just such a deeply personal level. Yeah. And I mean, like I messaged Tim Pool as it was happening and I'm like, this is your fucking fault. Cause I believe that you know, he got pissed off at me for it, but like, nah, all he does is run all of this bullshit narrative stuff, you know, 7 days a week. And it's just hit with all of this, like Democrats are bad. Democrats are stealing the election, all this, you know, debunked nonsense. And he runs with it constantly. And I'm like, dude, I guarantee you, if they ran a straw poll through that fucking crowd, at least 65% of people would have at least seen your shit.
Right.
You know, but he always hides behind this, you know, the veneer of like, oh, well, I'm just a liberal a disaffected liberal, and you know, whatever. But he never criticizes the right. It's always the left because, you know, hey, he turned it into like a multi-million-dollar endeavor. He bought a fucking compound in Maryland as a result of all that shit. Right. He's made a lot of money off of it because it's all a grift. The last time I saw Tim Pool was in Milwaukee in September 2018, and we were talking about YouTube, and he showed me his app, and he showed me like I saw how much money he'd made in the last 28 days on that app at that time for one channel, and this was before he blew up, and that was 13K in that 1 month. So when he's pulling in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views a day, because he puts out like tons of videos a day, and it's all incendiary and it's all negative, he was raking it in like crazy. And
people love negative.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And I'm actually at this point, I really am trying to like migrate away from that with YouTube, because like it just drives me up the fucking wall.
Right.
So
it's
anyway.
hard to focus on that. Right. So, but yeah. So by the way, I just wanted to show. So this is Frederick. So Frederick's the guy in the green. Jim is the other one. And then, you know, here he is again. This is Frederick and his dog. I love the dog, by the way.
Yeah.
And then this is Jim's son, Ron. You know, Ron's quite the character.
Yeah. Ron's gone
like the
now.
Logo of Gamergate?
That was the logo that was made. Yeah.
Okay, because I used it as well. I didn't know if I was doing
No.
right.
You did it right. I would have told you if it was wrong. You were fine.
Cool. All right.
There's also a mascot. Did you know about the mascot?
I did not.
Yeah, the mascot is Vivian James is the mascot, and because video games, Vivian James.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah.
So like what it was is at the beginning of all this, there was a group called the Fine Young Capitalists they had come out like the day before I was DMCA'd, and they posted on Reddit talking about how Zoe Quinn was a terrible person. And then so when Gamergate started off and everyone was kind of against Zoe, they were trying to raise money to make games, and they were like, well, we'll do a Gamergate narrative in a game or something. And they made a mascot, and they ended up, making this red-haired gamer chick with a purple and green sweater named Vivian James. And that became the mascot. That became the mascot of Gamergate. And so you can still find to this day faceless Twitter accounts that have got the Vivian James Abby, the profile pic of that. And like, if you don't know what it is, you probably would just think it's another anime character, but like, nope, it's straight up. I know exactly what that is.
Right.
I mean, it's just like the crazy stuff that came out of that kind of crap. There were songs that came out of that. There was like parody videos. I mean, a lot of artwork came out of that kind of stuff. I mean, people were inspired, and that was cool.
Yeah, so do you think Gamergate? So now, what I'm assuming, because it was utilized, like they talked about it in this documentary. So do you think Gamergate led to QAnon?
I think it had its. I think there's a through line. It's not 100% Gamergate to Q.
Right, domino to domino.
But yeah. But it's like you can start to see, like, let's say, for example, like, you can see how it does overlap.
Okay.
And you can see not only is it 8chan is a big factor, but a lot of, there's a lot of the same tactics that were involved. Now, the demographic of both are different. Mostly Q is all boomers.
Right.
And one of the things that the documentary didn't talk about was where it started to really grow. And that was actually in wellness and spiritual groups on Facebook, because as the political side of Q was being shut down on Facebook constantly, a lot of people in the spiritual side who will believe kind of whatever,
right?
Yep.
Like astrology. I've seen astrology QTubers. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, my tarot card reading here says that there's going to be mass arrests of dirty pedophiles.
Right. Yeah.
Also, don't step on any cracks today, just as a preponderance of caution. But it's like but it really proliferated in there. There's a reason why there's a lot of women who are into Q. It has a lot to do with that. And also, if you think about it, people like, so when it comes to Facebook, right? And this has been a statistic for a while. When you had like a lot of, as we start seeing manufacturing jobs leaving the country, automation comes on in, does the kind of stuff, but then you get a lot of the stuff that leaves the country. A lot of men, adult working class men, do end up finding themselves without a job.
Right.
And so what do? Right? They're at home. Yeah. They go on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we started noticing there was a spike in traffic on Facebook between the hours of about 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And it was generally middle-aged men who were very active at that time, because they didn't have anything to do. And I forget what year it was specifically. There was like something kind of tied to it. But like, so that was another thing that built up. I mean, Facebook has like 2.5 billion monthly active users. YouTube has 2 billion monthly active users. People are always looking for different things, but these pocket communities can very easily and quickly grow. So in the case of QAnon, it's like, here comes, like if you look at a lot of right-wing, like, and I said this before, I said, go look at like at your aunt or who's a conservative or whatever, anyone who knows a conservative, and look at their Facebook page. You'll mostly find them just reposting memes.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no commentary. There's no thought process put behind it. There's no explanation as to why they think the way that they think. They are just simply resharing the memes because they're co-signing the message. And it's anti-George Soros, anti-Nancy Pelosi. There's a lot of echo posting I've noticed.
Yeah.
And that was something that was in the documentary as well, which really cracked me the hell up. Because echo posting is when you have 3 brackets around, or 3 parentheses around the word.
There was the Israeli one or something like that.
Yeah, that's what he put on there. But it means Jewish. It means Jewish. So if you see people like they go like they, and they have the 3 parentheses around it, it's they is meaning the Jews. So, and so it's like, it's all coded messaging. Right. And the fact that was in there and they're talking about it with a lawyer was like, insane. And then the lawyer's like, I'm like 25% Ashkenazi Jew, right?
Yeah, it was wild. I was like, oh my God, this got really awkward.
And then he's like, oh, but you're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Oh my
right.
God.
But it's like, but they never really like brought up like who paid the $14,000.
And I think so. And that brings me to my question. Do you think Steve Bannon could potentially be Q?
I don't think Steve Bannon was Q, but I do think Steve Bannon followed Q. Okay. And I think Steve Bannon, because here's the thing, Steve Bannon is not the kind of guy to lead this thing himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not. He's the kind of guy who wants to be the puppet master. So he wants people to work underneath him, right? Now, if we were to find out that Steve Bannon was funding 8chan covertly, because remember, Ron kept saying remember at one point he's like, I have to sell my pig farm. It costs a lot of money to run this.
Right.
Well, does it really? Like, it's an image board, like so
you just need really the server, right? And then
and the server is located in China, and the server is located because we saw the guy when it was towards the end of it, when they were like out getting like ice cream or something outside, or they're at a bar at nighttime. There was another guy there in a suit that they never gave out who he was, but that guy is actually the one who runs the servers that keeps 8kun online and the Daily Stormer online and a bunch of other like really shitty websites run by really shitty people. That's the guy that keeps them online. And so they didn't explain that in the movie, but Frederick actually tweeted about it the other day.
Okay.
So that's how I was able to kind of figure out who that guy was.
I didn't even notice that he was there.
Yeah, I noticed him and I was like, who is that guy? But like, and they never really said anything about him. I thought, is he a friend or is he just kind of hanging out? But no, he's actually a key player in all of this.
So that now we'll circle around, because I did see that someone also asked it as well. Do you think I think there's always been a strong case for this, but what are the chances that Ron Watkins is Q? What do you think the chances are of that?
Oh, insanely high.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like at the end of that movie, when they're talking and he's like, oh, in our final conversation,
he says,
he stops and he cracked.
Yeah.
And at that point, Colin was the director, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You see him break. And that is him going like, because for one, you can tell he genuinely liked Ron.
Yeah.
Right. Like he genuinely liked Jim too. They had a camaraderie. They had a trust.
After long of doing something together, or being together, you naturally you form a friendship and camaraderie, like you said.
Yeah. And so, but the thing is like, but what Ron was saying right there too is like, when they're talking about all the Dominion stuff and how that all came to be. And he's like, no. He's like, I've always been in the background, but now I'm just doing it publicly.
Right.
Right. And it's like, I think Ron wanted, because there was a line, I think in like episode 2 or 3, when they're talking about like, when they're when he first met them and they're in the boardroom, and Ron goes, well, you could be Q, because, only Q would want to make a documentary about himself, and so he made that line and I'm like, oh, laying the groundwork.
Very much so.
It's like, okay, so why else would Ron do this? Ron, took Colin to a whorehouse, sang opera in front of him, completely ingratiated this guy in his life and his experience. And then was the whole time playing him, because he knew what the guy wanted and he kept doing it. And eventually I think the Q bit got old, and the fact that, and then it was weird too, because even Ron came out like a few weeks before the documentary dropped and then made a comment that Jim had been posting as Q on 8chan.
Right. And so I don't know if you remember or if anyone remembers, but at the beginning of the documentary, what we hear from Frederick's mouth is that Jim is a very private person, right? Now the Watkins are pretty private people.
Yeah.
Yet they were like, when we meet them in the documentary, it seems like their lives are open to us, right? We're like the documentator. We seem to have all access. I think it's like the third, fourth episode in. I think Frederick also says, you're only seeing, or they have come up with a narrative and they're sticking to it. Like they already planned a narrative out and now now they're walking through it together. They had already decided what the story was going to be that they told you.
Right.
Speaking about the documentary. So like, what I'm saying is we got the sense of that Jim and Ron are kind of like private people. And that line that Matt just spoke about, only Q would make a documentary about himself, right? It seems like, like the criminal, like the criminal always goes back to the scene of the crime kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
Oh, that it's like, you kind of want to, test the line, see what you can get away with.
Yeah.
I think that's what potentially might be happening.
That makes the most amount of sense, to be honest with you, because I mean, like, them pushing a narrative that they concocted, because I guarantee they were probably laughing about all this.
Yeah.
They're probably, I mean, even now, they're probably sitting there laughing about all of it because they've, they've done they don't have to worry about HN anymore. They can let it go away. It can die tomorrow.
Right.
And they probably have got a bunch of other, they probably made a bunch of money off of everything.
Yeah.
And who knows what they're up to now. I mean, like, it's just kind of crazy to see how it all kind of plays out. But to bring it back to the Gamergate situation, at least my tweet on it, a lot of people were not happy with what I tweeted.
Yeah, and I found that, and I would like to address that like at the end. Like
sure. Oh yeah.
The last thing I want to say. You can address it now, but I would like to.
Well, no, we can save it till the end. So there's no point of like rehashing it if we don't have to.
All right. And so I really do. I find QAnon. So my mail, the woman that delivers the mail to my house, she is a member of QAnon, right? And I am not. However, I don't, if there's anyone out there who is, I don't think less of you or anything like that. But like, I do like to think, like, I like to find out how you think, right? Like, how did you go from not believing it to believing it? Like, where was the transition? And like, she can't tell me. She just says that, she fell down a bit. She's like, I'm at the bottom of the rabbit hole. And it's like, she's acknowledging that she's crazy. And that she believes every conspiracy that's ever been mentioned ever.
Well, the thing is, it's all through repetition, right?
Right.
All knowledge is learned through repetition. So think of it like this. You've got a group of people that start seeing the same memes, right? The Democrats are all Satan worshiping, child eating pedophiles.
Right.
And they're funded by George Soros. And at first you're like, that's retarded. And then but you keep seeing it and you keep seeing it. And you're already, if you like Trump, and then Trump's like, well, the media is the enemy of the people and the media is untrustworthy and the media always lies. And you're like, okay. And then the memes, well, but the media is run by George Soros. And then they keep, well, what connection do you have? Oh, well, he funded this one thing one time. Oh, well, that's proof. And then you go into the hardcore stuff. Like, and this is what they did on 4chan a lot, was they would create content that looks like it's supposed to be, real. Like so for example, like when Pizzagate happened. So that was in November, early December, 2016.
Right.
I was at home and someone messages me and they're like, hey, have you heard of this Pizzagate thing?
Do we lose him again?
Matt.
That's okay. He'll be back. So for anyone who doesn't know, Pizzagate happened. So
there we go.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. I don't know what the hell. Goddamn.
It's all right, dude. You're right though. StreamYard has been funky. So why don't you explain what Pizzagate is? Because I can tell it, but I'm not as good as like how it actually. So it has to do with the DNC email hacks, and lots of mentions of pizza and getting pizza, and from Comet Pizza, and pick it up from there.
So yeah, you had that. So there was a DNC email leak, and they found John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff. A bunch of like references to getting pizza, and like certain terminology. right? Like cheese pizza and things like that. And then they mentioned Comet Ping Pong. Well, the thing is, so this is where you get into the weird conspiracy where you've got people start looking into Comet Ping Pong. Well, James Alefantis is a weird fucking guy.
Yeah,
it's a weird fucking guy. Like if you look at his Instagram feed from back then, there's some weird shit there. I won't lie. Like at one point they had like a little 8-year-old girl like masking taped to like a table, like her arms.
But this is the owner of Comet Ping Pong.
This is the owner of Comet Ping. Yeah,
right. Okay.
And so people started like what really blew it up was this dossier, right, that went out.
Right.
And this dossier was kind of trying to connect some of the symbolism at the thing to that of a pedophile ring, and they were trying to connect the dots, and like cheese pizza is a code word for like girl or whatever, and
but, I mean, do you agree it's really a stretch, right?
Oh yeah, I mocked it.
Oh, okay.
I went through it. I went through the whole thing. And I did the video on it. And I laughed my ass off at it. The whole, oh my God, that angered so many fucking people. Like,
oh my God.
Because I was battling Pizza Gators for like so long after that, because they're just like, no, it's real. It's all pedophiles. And I'm like,
dude, come on.
It's serious? Like, are you kidding me? It's, this was proven on December 16th, 2016, when Edgar M. Welch walked in there with a gun, fired off a warning shot to get the people to clear out of the place, and then went trying to find this underground child sex dungeon that doesn't exist. He gets out of prison this year.
It was December 16th, 2016, right?
Yeah, that's, if I recall, that was the right date.
Because I was actually, so my best friend, Andrew Lantine, he was a Marine, or is a Marine, because once and always, but he had been honorably, it was his time to get out. And that morning, December 16th, I flew from Boston to Palm Springs. And when I got off the plane, people were like crowded around the TV, and they were like, at the airport.
Yeah.
Because it had just happened, or like they were, the news report, like breaking news,
right.
Man, walks in with a gun to Comet Ping Pong. And like, it was at the, sadly, and even just back in 2016, mass shootings weren't, I mean, they were starting to ramp up, but they weren't like they are.
Though this was like 2 months before Parkland.
Yes. But it also was wild because of where it started, right? It was like, man enters Comet Ping Pong Pizza because he thinks Hillary Clinton's in the basement eating children. It was like, what? I mean, I don't like Hillary that much, but I don't think she eats children. Or like Alex Jones has a lot of part in this.
Yeah. Well, and Alex Jones actually in March 2017, he had to, and I don't know if you know about this, he actually had to issue an apology and a retraction.
Is it for Comet, or is it for
it was Comet Ping Pong. It was two James Alefantis and Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria. He had to retract the statements that he had made because there was a video that was made for the InfoWars YouTube channel at the time that was like, what is Pizzagate and why is it real or something? They had like real in the title.
Right.
And then like, as it started kind of heating up a little bit, they changed it to just what is Pizzagate? They took away the messaging of it being real and they dropped it back down to what is Pizzagate. And then they ultimately removed the video. And so that was in, I think, March of 2017, he had to issue an apology. But then in like April 2017, he had to issue another retraction and an apology to the CEO and the people who work for Chobani Yogurt. Because Alex Jones had said, and they were sued for this, that the owner of Chobani, I believe, is as a Turkish immigrant.
Okay.
Or maybe Syrian, or he's an immigrant. And he would hire immigrants to work in the Chobani factory in, I think, Twin Falls, Idaho. And then more or less Jones had implied pretty directly that they were rapists and thieves and shit like that. And Chobani sued him.
Good.
And then he had to also retract that and then issue a statement saying he was sorry and everything else like a month later. So, I mean, even now, Jones, I don't think will be around in the next couple of years because he's getting sued out. Every time he tries to stop the Sandy Hook stuff, it's like
That's okay. So that's what I was going to bring up is Alex Jones was deplatformed, and I have gone on the record several times saying that I don't think that deplatforming is the solution, and I do think it impedes them on. And even though they're private companies, right? Everyone battles me on it, right? Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Apple, they're all private companies. They have the right to take them off. You're right, they do. But I think we need to start having the conversation like, I don't know, is Twitter and Facebook, is it a right or is it a privilege at this point? I don't know. Because the lines are starting to blur. And I'm not saying I'm right, but once we start limiting speech and who can say what, we're not going to get that power back. So I just think we have to be careful. But if there's one person on the planet that needs to be taken off the internet, it's Alex Jones and potentially Donald Trump.
Yep.
I make a stronger case for Alex Jones, though. I would. I think Alex is very, very, very.
Well, let me ask you this: why stop there? Right.
That's the point.
Because even in that, in the documentary, you had Jack Posobiec, right, pop up a couple times. He's a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right. Jack, when Trump was elected, before he was inaugurated, there was a protest outside of, I forget where it was, and Jack had shown up with a sign on one side that said something, but behind it, it had said like "Rape Melania" on the back. And they took a photo of that he was, again, a lot of these guys become like alt-right provocateurs, and Posobiec, completely, he's a complete alt-right provocateur. I remember like watching his periscopes at that time, and he was all like, he got his aviator shades on, he's outside like, I'm an operative in DC. Like, dude, you cheated on your wife with a fucking Bumble, eat a dick, all right? Like,
right, yeah.
Like his wife was pregnant and he went off and like, met some chick on Bumble and stuff. Like, I guess that is MAGA, Fucking leave a pregnant wife to go find somebody else. It's like, I did my part, I spread my seed. Like, fucking Jesus Christ, these fucking people, they're all terrible. I mean, Mike Cernovich was trying to, for a while there, Mike Cernovich was trying to sell, he was trying to start selling nootropics, like these mind expanding nootropics, that the running gag on Twitter was just that he was swallowing his own cum, that was the running gag, because like, it's just the weirdest shit, like it's just, these people get into the weirdest grifts. And then, look at Cernovich and James Gunn. He was the one who led the charge to get James Gunn booted off of, Guardians 3, and and then now he's out there talking about like, oh no, cancel culture is bad. Like, bitch, you fucking led a crusade against the guy whose tweets you didn't like from literally 6 years prior, who had acknowledged that those are bad tweets and acknowledged that he shouldn't have done it. But it didn't matter because they were able to use it at the time because James Gunn had said that Roseanne deserved to be fired, which is an up for debate topic. I actually think that people went too far.
Agreed.
Only because I've seen Planet of the Apes, and so I kind of got what she was saying.
Right.
Never mind. Also, like, if you know anything about the Muslim Brotherhood, it's kind of like, okay, I get it. Maybe poor comparison, but I got what you were trying to say. I still don't agree with it, but it's like, meh. The Ambien defense was kind of lame though. Like, own it. Just own you said it.
Had too many Ambiens that night and a few drinks.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is like everyone's quick to like apologize and blame something or yada yada yada. It's like, no, just say, yep, I said that. I'm sorry.
I mean, like, look, man, I get it. Sometimes it's hard because the ego is designed to protect us. Let's just be fair, and so that's difficult sometimes to kind of like figure all that out. But anyway, I think, when it comes to the whole censorship thing, like I pissed off people yesterday because Twitter got rid of Project Veritas, and I said, about fucking time.
What is that?
Project Veritas was James O'Keefe. That was his journalistic, I don't know, I'm air quoting journalism here. The guy, he secretly records people, selectively edits the recording to make it sound like they're saying very terrible things.
Oh, geez.
He releases those private recordings and then tries to use it as part of cancel culture. All while, following the Trump playbook of it, never admit you're wrong. And that was actually an Andrew Breitbart playbook, was never admit that you're wrong and never admit fault. And so that's the whole thing though, was like, like when it came to like James O'Keefe first came on the scene in 2009 with the whole Acorn scandal, which he ultimately was able to use to defund Acorn, right? He won't take responsibility. He'll go, oh, Obama did it. But there was so much pressure from the right wing and Obama was trying to be more of a centrist at the time because he was still like his first year in office.
Right.
And so, you know, he did that. But then you find out that like the governor of California at the time had requested all the tapes, watched all the tapes, and was like, no, they didn't say anything wrong here, but that didn't matter because the idea that was so selectively edited here was they put together this false narrative and they showcased it in such a way that it was able to get right-wing Fox to run with it and create such a groundswell of support for defunding Acorn that they cost like people their jobs and people in these neighborhoods that needed the resources that they were being helped with. They lost out because these guys just wanted to lie. And then like the following year, they got busted, you know, like trying to fuck with the phone lines of a Democratic senator, you know, and they got busted doing that. And it's all been terrible ops ever since. And he keeps doing it. Even after the election, he got some guy who was like worked for, I think, the post office or something in Pennsylvania. And this guy came out and he was all like, I watched them like switch ballots, essentially. And and the guy was like, here's my name, here's my face. And it's like, dude, this is like eye-rollingly stupid. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing. They all the experts have said most secure election in history. Right. But that doesn't matter because of the way that the Trump and the right wing media framed all the arguments. And they tried doing everything they could to showcase that something bad did happen when it never did. Look at Ron Watkins going, I read the manual for the Dominion voting machine. And let me tell you how you could easily do this. Like this is this is about like election integrity. You think these companies are like not going to be looking after? You know, these machines are already not supposed to be connected to the internet at all, you know, because of security. And then even during the last administration, when there was numerous, when they were trying to bring up election security voting in the Senate, it got shut down by McConnell. So you know, the people complaining about voting security, all that shit, they were blocking it left and right. They didn't put any money into the infrastructure of it to try to protect the integrity. And now all the, you know, Georgia voting bill shit and all the other states like Texas trying to do the same thing. You can see that what they're trying to do is to not have a repeat of 2020. Yeah. But when it comes to like the online conspiracy QAnon shit, like Q, I think at this point is kind of done because it's sought its purpose out. And the Gamergate connection, it ended with the insurrection. You know, because I don't think we're ever going to have that happen again.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it's, you know, it's just like looking back in the last 7 years and seeing everything and seeing it all kind of come together like that. That's why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, is like to sit there and go like, I was a cog in this machine. And you want to hear the craziest fucking thing? You know, the woman who died in the insurrection?
Yeah.
Right. We went to the same high school.
Wow.
We weren't in the same grade. I was 2 years older than she was. Right. I was a senior and she was a sophomore. And I might have met her during my time going there. I don't remember because it's been over 20 years. But the fact that like we went to the same high school, that was another thing that really bothered me. You know, San Diego, a lot of, you know, there's a lot of right. It's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of whatever. There's a lot of skinheads out there, right? A lot of, there was once a race war at my high school, you know, like there's a lot of weird shit. But it's like still, you know, like how would you get? I met a lot of Republicans in San Diego, and they were never that radicalized. So like, what caused it? And it's always going to be the disinformation. It's always going to be the proliferation of an enemy, the othering, and that's one of the reasons why, like when it comes to movie content, like I get really mad with the fandom menace because all they do is they do that to Kathleen Kennedy and Brie Larson and anyone that they don't like. And they do that because they know it's the same fucking tactics. It's dehumanize. It is othering. It is alienation. And it's all about the echo chamber. And you know what? I'm just going to say it. That is very reminiscent of how fucking Nazi Germany got started, you know? And it's just propaganda. I'm not saying they're going to round anybody up and put them into fucking camps. Okay. Yeah. But like the propaganda is what did it. It's the constant negative hit pieces. It's the constant. Yeah. Do you know? Okay. So I had my fallout in 2018, right? I had the flagging incident. When that happened, people dove into my life. like every aspect they could find. They found shit I had forgotten about. And then they turned it into this like big fucking deal.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and they made like, they had video after video after video. There's like tons of like just full blown, like hour-long documentaries into my existence. A lot of it is shit I kind of just went like, what, really? Oh, that happened? Oh, well, okay. Fuck, I forgot. Cool.
Right.
Thanks for the update. You know, like, but one thing that happened was they took a story from when I was 15 and I was going to church and I was going to Calvary Chapel in Portland, Oregon. And there was a 13-year-old girl there named Sonia. Sonia, I kind of liked her. Like, you know, my friend and I were kind of like quabbling over her. Like, you know how it is. We're both 15. She was 13. We're close enough in age.
Yeah.
But like nothing ever happened except, you know, one day we had a bit of a falling out. And she started spreading me, saying that like I would call her house in the middle of the night and harass her dad. That happened. I was there, but I'm not the one who did it. But then she'd say things like I was attacking her siblings. I would be throwing chairs at them. Right. And then she said the craziest one was that I had reportedly, according to her, allegedly, took her behind the church was in like an old, like daycare. Right.
Right.
And so there was like this convenience, like strip mall area right on the other side adjacent to it. So we'd always go back there like and smoke cigarettes afterward. And because we're bad kids.
Yeah.
But she said that I took her back there and that I held a knife to her throat and I forced her to make out with me.
Oh, geez.
Now the thing is like the reason why Sonia got, oh no, that's right. The reason why Sonia got mad at me is because she had asked me to get her pregnant. And I told her no, because she at the time was working in the church nursery and she wanted to have a baby. You know, and like I had done a video about this like back in 2014, 2013, talking about why I left church and like this is what she had said. Well, people took that and I ultimately got asked, I got kicked out of church as a result of the things Sonia had said.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the reason why I no longer go to church.
Right.
But I never did anything to her. And the thing was, the story about the knife is something that she had told me that someone else had done to her. And it took literally 22 fucking years. When all this shit came out and people were really attacking me over it, it took me all that time to recognize, oh, she was probably lying to me about that too. But the thing is like that situation with Sonia, it was the key reason why I did not want to have kids.
Yeah.
Right. That was like literally it. I didn't have my first daughter until I was 35. You know, I just turned 39 the other day, a couple weeks ago. And it's like, I got a 3-year-old, I got a 20-month-old. I love my daughters, but like, I didn't want to have kids. And that was a big fucking factor. I'm like, fuck that bitch was insane.
Right.
And so then here's the thing with that though, is I told that story as I was earnest about it, you know, maybe being a bit hyperbolic because you're trying to entertain on YouTube, but I was being honest about it. And people started trying to find Sonia. They tried finding her. They doxed 2 women that they believed were her. And then people, because that was and this is where like the bringing up of Medicare earlier, he ran a live stream in front of 15,000 people where he inferred that I was basically a pedophile. And as a result of that, people were contacting Child Protective Services here in Washington.
Yeah.
In an attempt to smear me as such and to get my daughter taken away.
Yeah.
Because I just had my one daughter at the time.
Jeez.
And you know, I was her primary care provider. So in the daytime. And so like, this is the level that people went because somebody smeared a story and they took it in a way that was so demeaning and they twisted it and they moved it all around in order to get a narrative. And that narrative stands even though it's been nearly 3 years. And there are people out there who still believe that I'm this type of lying pedophile.
Right.
You know, even though that's never the case, pedophilia at least. You know, like, yeah, I lied about flagging some channels. I was being harassed heavily for the course of the year. Was that the right course of action? No, I should have handled it differently. But it was so minimal compared to where things are now. And the dogpiling was so incessant back then that like it just it gets you to a point where you just go, fuck it. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the whole thing with that tweet at the same time. I questioned, should I post this? And then I said, fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't give a shit because there's literally nothing that these people could say or do that's going to alter my existence in any conceivable fashion. Because I'll tell you this, guys, I was doxxed when the shit went down a couple of years ago. My phone number, my home address, my girlfriend's number, all posted, still posted. Right?
Right.
In June of 2019, I received a postcard in the mail to my home that was a handwritten death threat.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I've received the harassment. I've gotten the harassing phone calls. I've had the cum tributes. I've had people take photos of my Twitter avatar down the barrel of a gun, down the iron sights of a gun. I've been lied about. People would try getting my kids taken away. All of this shit.
Swatting.
Wow.
All of this shit for the last, and I've been on YouTube since 2012 with this kind of attitude, with this,
Wow.
on the commentary side of things. So I
Right.
have seen shit in the past 9 fucking years. 9 years now. And I mean, literally, like, this is the kind of crap that comes out of this existence. And
That is dangerous.
It is some serious shit. So if I'm just going to sit there and like laugh about liars being fucking deplatformed, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Let the companies do what they're going to fucking do. He can go to Telegram. He didn't lose his speech. Not at all. You know, like Trump, same thing. Alex Jones,
Yeah.
same thing. You know what? When you operate in false information and false narratives and you get caught doing dumb shit, there's consequences to it.
There are.
And that's the whole
Yep.
fucking point. You cannot ask for accountability for only a few.
Oh,
But
and
to look
Alex plays the victim card so much.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, they took away my way of making money, this and that. And like, again, it just, I'm sorry that you did have to go through that. And,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's
like,
so dangerous.
I'm not trying to like, oh, woe was
feel
me shit.
sympathy. Yeah. I know.
Right,
Yeah, like
right.
it's not that. But like there's legitimately, like, to give you an idea, you can even find this on someone's, I think, I forget the guy's name channel, but like there was a free speech conference I went to in 2018 before the flagging shit. That was, I talked about the kind of shit I had experienced online. And at that time it was ramping the fuck up. Like what I dealt with in 2018 from the end of 2017 to like, all the way through 2018, had a lot to do with like this constant attacks from people who were my former friends. And they were building up what's known as internet blood sports. And they were trying to use me as a heel because I wasn't fighting back. They wanted to just keep attacking me every single day. So I'd wake up in the morning, I'd check my Twitter and it would just be like nonstop fucking attacks every day because these guys were live for like 6 hours, from like 10 until 2, from like 10 until 3 or some shit like that. So it'd be nonstop shit. And then at the time I was like, it was my daughter. I was looking after her in the day. So my girlfriend goes to work. I'm home with the kid. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, cause you got like a fucking infant.
Right.
So it just was all of this mounting bullshit, lack of sleep, fucking nonstop crap, the constant harassment. So it just leads you down this path of like, whatever. And so, yeah, like, again, should have handled it differently, but it wasn't like, just people being mean, as a lot of people try to make it out to be.
Right.
And, so it's like this is the problem with this shit. This is why it's like, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I'd rather just like, I'd rather burn it all to the goddamn ground.
Yeah.
Than fucking deal with these fucking people.
Yeah. And to
I do want to address, sorry, real quick here. I see Ash says Dame Pesos, right? Here's the thing. Here's
what
the
does
thing.
that mean?
Dame Pesos is a guy. He's a Chilean.
I thought she meant like damn pedos.
No,
or
it's
something.
Dame. It's Dame. Here's the thing. Dame and I have relatively made up. Okay, like before Biden got elected, Dame and I had we talked a little bit. All right, but this guy spent years, literal years, calling me a pedophile. As much as he possibly could.
Okay.
Like on YouTube videos, he did songs. There's 2 albums made about me, right? There's 2.
Jesus,
What?
dude.
2
What is
music
going
albums.
on with you, man? You're like
Yeah.
a hot topic. Huh?
I know. It was there's 2 albums, and on one of them, the guy, and these are like videos where like they say like songs where they talk about like my daughter isn't my daughter, that my girlfriend had sex with a guy named Tyrone and I was cucked, all this shit, and like, but the guy,
You listen to them?
nah, I don't.
Okay.
I know about him. I don't like, I mean, I've listened to some of it, like, to kind of
shouldn't.
get an idea, but it's like at the same time, it's so
Yeah.
vile. I'm like,
Yeah,
why would
you
I,
just shouldn't do that
why
to
would I put this
yourself.
shit in my fucking mind? But it's like, there's a weird thing with that too. Like I like people who create art. And if I'm the inspiration for art, good or bad, like satirical wise, like I can kind of respect it only because I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Because you did have to create the content.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, like being someone's muse on that front's kind of interesting. But the Dame Pesos guy, like literally would like call me a pedophile, like as often as he possibly fucking could,
Right.
and he clearly doesn't believe it, but he would just keep doing it. And it's like, and then people would, again, that keeps that narrative going, where his audience would attack me if he ever did a video. Cause he would do a show called the Soyless Mad Show where or my face and my name
was literally in your name. Your name was in the title.
Yeah. And it would like, my face was all over it, even though he wouldn't even talk about me. He would still use my face and my branding. And it's like, I made a comment about like copyright one time and like some lawyer came at me. He's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Cause no one would conceivably think that, he was you. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. Like, I still think it's a little bit odd, and whatever. But the thing is like, he got under my skin the most. I will admit that. But we did ultimately talk last year a little bit and we kind of smooth things over. So, like, and that's really all it kind of takes. So but it's such a weird fucking thing, to like go through that shit. And like people who they say shit, but people will believe shit. That's the whole point with Q, right? That's the whole point with Q. They'll say shit and then people will run with it and they'll build their own narrative off of it. And then from there, people will believe that narrative because they hear it enough times.
Right. And I think regardless of what happens with anyone right now, maybe you're not innocent in the purest form of the word. You've admitted that on more than, I don't know how many times I've heard you admit.
And the thing is, I hate that I have to still keep doing it. Yeah. Like I shouldn't, but it's like that whole notion of like, if I don't, then it's going to be, like when I said, because I reported videos for harassment. Okay. No video went down. Like no one lost any money. No one's channel went down, but the narrative was that I flagged down thousands of videos.
So what's that story? So I mean, you mentioned it. I know the story because you've told me.
Yeah.
So in this whole thing, you're getting, all these things are happening to you, right? You're basically everything you just spoke about is happening to you, and you have an infant, you're not sleeping. Every day you wake up and there's, whatever, people making songs about you. So you start kind of taking action.
Well, a lot of it. Okay. Have you ever reported a video for harassment flagged a video on YouTube?
No, I
literally, you know how long it takes?
Nope.
2 seconds.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. You click the little flag button, right? Like, or if you're on your computer, you just click over to the 3 little dots there, click report. And then
it's the only thing that pops up.
Yeah. And then you just click it and go, whatever the hell it is. And then you go next. And that's about it. It can literally be, and then it goes to a human. You don't even think about it. Oh, but the thing is, there's a report history, which I didn't know existed. I do now. I didn't know then, but I do now. And, so it's like, you don't think about it, right? You just kind of do it as like a fuck you sort of thing, but you never think about it. And again, it's not the right move. Using your words would have been better than kind of like covertly doing it. Mm-hmm. But it's like at the same time, when this whole shit went down with me, there was a Discord server with like 3,000 people in it that when I uploaded a new video, they would swarm it. They would swarm it with dislikes, swarm it with negative comments, and then also flag it. They would flag it. And the thing is, leading up to everything that year, I was getting targeted by someone. I had over 5,000 videos at that point. I uploaded a lot. And so someone was going through and like literally reporting like every video I had. I had videos taken down, that year. And like I had some copyright or some community guideline strikes that I was able to kind of get myself out of, because there was a guy who worked with YouTube who was helping out certain YouTubers dealing with that problem. And there was another group of people that were trying to get me to kind of create this alternate internet blood sport show that would rival the other guys and try to like break up the monopoly, I guess.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, I talked about that before and like no one fucking believed me, but thankfully a few weeks ago on Boulder Talk Radio, one of the guys actually called in and confirmed it. So like, all right, cool, vindication. You know,
somewhat,
like,
yeah, at
like
least a little
somewhat,
bit.
like on that front, like there was a lot of shit that was going on at the time. And so you don't think about it. You just don't fucking think about it. And then, you know, now clearly, you do. I haven't reported anything since then, but really it's like, you just don't think. And so, and then it goes to a human reviewer, and the human reviewer will then assess it. They'll assess it. But here's the thing, you know, the machine learning algorithms, that's where like about 90% of the flagged content gets taken down from, not by humans, but by the algorithm that listens to what's said, and they can determine a lot of shit through machine learning. Mm-hmm. So when everything with me went down, people were talking about it because, you know, it's a YouTuber and controversy, it happens. But a lot of people's videos started going down. And then so I started getting fucking accused of all of that shit. And I'm like, dude, like I'm just trying to keep my fucking sanity right now. Like I'm just trying to focus on work and shit. I didn't upload to 3 Buck Theater for like over a month after that shit because they were targeting the main channel. I didn't want them to target 3 Buck Theater.
Right.
So I just went dark on that channel for fucking months, or for over a month, just to kind of like let it die down a little bit. And the thing is though, that the people really only went after the Mundane Matt channel. They didn't go after 3 Buck Theater or really any of my other channels. And then it dawned on me over the years that they only just want the channel to go away. They just want to take away that channel. You know, like most of the people who fucking hate me, I'll hear this from a lot of people. They'll go, I hate your political takes, but I like listening to you talk about movies. Right. So it's like that weird, like, we like what you do over here, but fuck you over here. Sort of thing.
Right.
It's such a weird, again, it's so fucking weird. But I will say this though, in the last year, I have gotten a lot of people messaging me and saying like, hey, I'm sorry I went so hard on you. Clearly it's not as bad as people thought that it was. You didn't deserve a lot of this shit. And I'm going to delete the videos that I've made on you. And I've gotten that a lot. And the people that I haven't talked to or nothing like that, they just seen what's happened with the people that were involved in that scene who have done way worse things. And they tried playing the moral card over me, and they go like but they flag openly at this point, right? Those guys flag openly. One of them like released his own fucking sex tape to get revenge on a guy who was cucking him. I'm not even kidding you.
That's a true story.
That's a true story. I'll summarize it. I'll TLDR it. But there's a guy who I fucking hate, who he's 35, started dating an 18-year-old, right? And flew her from California to Virginia where he lives so she could move in with him. She was in so she ended up having a breakdown, threatened suicide, ended up spending 10 days in a mental ward at her parents' request, because their parents were going to take her back because, you know, she's only 18. And in the process, this guy comes out of nowhere and he says like, hey, I'm her boyfriend. She's not actually sleeping with this guy. She says his mouth smells like a bloody tampon and, you know, all this other shit, right? So this guy, his name is Chris. Chris starts this live stream where he's going through like Instagram DMs between the two of them while she was at this other guy's house, you know? And like,
wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
this has been the longest dark time.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm back now.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, so you know, anyway, this Tame the Watcher person, you can sit on a rusty saw blade, you fucking piece of shit. So I don't care. Everything they're saying is an outright fucking lie, you know. So anyway, whatever. But Ralph, yeah, so he posted a link. I was watching this live as it happened.
Okay.
He sent a link to this guy on through his Instagram account while the guy was live, and to prove that he was having sex with this girl. You know, so like he sent his own sex tape to a guy who, like, his girlfriend was still sending nudes to in front of like 400 people live on a live stream. Now that did ultimately result in him being charged with revenge porn. But because of the pandemic, the prosecution decided to not proceed with that charge.
That's illegal.
That's illegal, and it's a class 1 misdemeanor.
There's a legitimate thing called revenge porn.
Yeah,
Porn, yeah.
it's illegal in a lot of states now. Yeah. Oregon was the very Oregon. This is funny too. This actually ties back into Gamergate. Oregon was the first state to convict somebody on it, and the guy who they convicted was this dude named Benjamin Barber, who was a fucking pro Gamergator. I'm not kidding you. He was a pro Gamergator who got busted because he had uploaded a sex tape that he had with his former wife to Pornhub and wouldn't take it down. And so he got charged and he got convicted. He was going to spend 6 months in jail. He fucking skipped out before when he didn't report when he had to report to jail. Went on the run from like the end of 2016 to July or to June 2017, where he ended up finally getting arrested and he went to jail. And I think they tacked on like an extra. So he's out of jail by now. But yeah, revenge porn's a thing. That was a funny thing too, is like, a lot of these SJWs that we went after with Gamergate, right? The people that would call us all like racists and bigots and shit. Oh my God. You know how many of them have been busted for actual like sex trafficking or like prostitution or like fucking being degenerates, like sexual assault and shit? A ton of them. So that was the other side of it as well, is like the people that we were battling against were legitimately bad people. Right. So like there was that extra level of like, of like kind of, you could say schadenfreude a little bit when they would get busted. But it goes to show you that it's like, there are a lot of really bad degenerate people that are out there, and but no one's perfect is the best way to describe it. So like, so again, to just kind of go back to my situation, like, am I remorseful of what happened? Yeah, dude, 100%. Like I shouldn't have done it. It wasn't like a get caught sort of thing. Cause I'll be honest with you, like before that stream, I had actually scheduled my first appointment with a psychiatrist because I had like this moment where I was like, just what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm so angry all the time.
Yeah.
And like I raised my kid. I'm just tired. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. Like I can't do this shit. So I had scheduled an appointment, and then like a couple days later, like it all kind of fell apart. Yeah. But instead of like cutting and running or whatever, I, showed it. And I said, look, I've been having mental problems, and like I had some dark thoughts, because it was just like, you gotta think of it like this. When you know about the adpocalypse, right?
Nope. Okay.
So the adpocalypse, the first adpocalypse happened happened about 4 years ago, when it was right after Trump got inaugurated. The Wall Street Journal went after PewDiePie.
Because PewDiePie's like the number one
number one
YouTuber ever, right?
Yeah. And so they found a bunch of dark jokes that he had made, and they were like, it was like Nazi humor, right? Oh. Because on the internet, Nazi humor, it means a little bit differently. It does. And so, but they compiled it together in like this very, like poorly, subjectively edited thing, and put it out there, and it ended up causing like 256 companies to pull out of advertising on YouTube. So if you want to know why the advertising model is so bad right now, it's because of that shit from 4 years ago. Wow. And so at that time, like leading into that shit, because it took place in like April of 2017, I was just closing escrow on my house, because I had thought, I made 70 grand on YouTube the year before. Like the way things were going, trajectory was like, I'll probably clear 100K in 2017. Mm-hmm. So we decided like, all right, cool. Like we'll buy a house. My girlfriend's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, cool. So it's like, I had the stress of being a homeowner, losing like 50, like I think it was like 65% of my income off of the adpocalypse, at a time when my girlfriend's pregnant and transitioning from her job, which also paid like 70K a year, to trying to find something up here, which there's not much up here, to be honest with you.
Right.
So it's like, holy shit. So the stress started to build, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it just took its toll on me. It's really what it boils down to. And which is why I would argue that if anything, I'm like a case study for what not to do. You know, if you're feeling burnt the fuck out, like go get help.
Right.
Speaking on that real quick, a lot of people like to say a lot of things about you specifically.
Yeah.
I I never knew you as mundane Matt. I knew who you were. I've never known you as that person. So, at a time, I think it was right before the Snyder Cut was debuting. I had a conversation with you where I was like, I think I'm doing too much. Like, I'm not eating as much. I'm not, I'm putting 170 hours into this, and you had given me some good advice. Like, this is what I did. Take it for what it is, and that's the day where I was like, I like that guy, and it wasn't, and I had met you before that. But again, I don't know that person. I don't know the stories. That's why you're kind of explaining them.
Yeah.
I know somewhat of it. I firmly believe that people can change. You did, post on Twitter whether you had a fight inside your head, whether you should post it or not. You did say sorry for your part in it. And that, if you could probably take it back, you would. I respect that. I respect someone who learns from their mistakes. If there are anyone out there that can't see that, you've looked at it in a different way, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have been like that. Maybe I shouldn't have done those things. Maybe I was just caught up in all the moments. Because when you're in it, it's different. It's hindsight is everything, right? So I do respect you as a person for being able to say I was wrong, and that you're not innocent. Because not a lot of people can do that and still, be as confident. So whatever happened in the past, as long as you've learned from it, like the claims, like the pedophilia claims and stuff, those are really dangerous. Those can ruin someone's lives, especially, as well as the swatting thing. I didn't know that was real until you told that story. So, I didn't know that people did that kind of thing. I've heard.
Oh, I literally saw someone yesterday say that I had manufactured that too. Like because the reality of it is this, and I appreciate what you're saying, but the reality of it is this: there are people out there who are going to believe what they want to believe. There's someone in the chat right now that was doing that shit too. And it's like, look, you want to believe what you want to believe. You want to believe the Ballad of Mundane Matt video that Jim made. Most of it was just a kill stream stuff. And there's other stuff in there that he just willfully got wrong. Jim? He did infer that I had a sexually assaulted a 13-year-old in front of 15,000 people, which I never did. And that caused me a lot of undue stress. For what purpose? Because he was raking in super chats. He made a lot of money off of trying to say that I had done something horrible, horrible to somebody else that I never did. And am I ever going to get an apology for that? Fuck no, it's not going to happen. I'm not even looking for one. But but what I am saying is that you got to listen to what people say, and you got to look past it and follow it to see whether or not it's legit, and not just listen to what someone infers as their spin. And that's especially when it comes to people's fucking lives.
Right. Yeah.
And that was something that Gamergate, like I tried to bring to Gamergate. There are people that I just genuinely didn't like, but it's like, I still tried to give like as much benefit of the doubt as humanly possible. I didn't at some points in the very beginning parts of my career because I was trying to be antagonistic, and that was, again, something I shouldn't have done. There's a lot of mistakes that I've made in regards to all this stuff. And it might be why I'm probably as like hardcore about it as I am these days, where I have to like if there's shit that I that's wrong, I'm just going to speak up and say something. But this is not something that I would wish on practically anyone. Like, people have been telling me recently, like, oh, I want to do YouTube. I'm all like, I don't know, do anything else.
Right.
Do, or just manage your expectations, because it's a grind, And the problem though is that like when you get, there are people out there that they make their entire living off of attacking others, and and I was probably in that camp for a while myself. You don't think you're doing it. You think you're just speaking out, but there's, you never know who's watching, and you never have control over who's watching, by the way. So I don't ever really look to that, but there are people out there who do take this stuff seriously. And they have no problem acting upon it. Like, I am fearful that one day somebody will come to my house with a gun.
Right.
Like I'm installing another security camera tomorrow just to be on the safe side. I've already got a couple, and we're just adding a new one. So it's like, got to be on the safe side. You never know.
Yeah.
And that should not be the world we fucking live in, by the way.
Right.
No.
That you have,
It's one thing it is one thing to you know, like if I were to call Austin like, hey, you're fat, right? Like, and that's on the internet, right? Like called him fat, and like, you know, and it's another thing to take that to the next level and come to his house and tell him maybe, you know, that I think that there is a line and that's where it's crossed. And I do think that that's why, you know, I'm not going to put my address public. Not that I think I do anything to warrant anyone like doing anything weird. That's just not the business I'm in. But it potentially could be one day, you know, someone doesn't agree with my take on Superman, and you know,
you're all like, you're all like, the Snyder Cut 2 is terrible, and then all of a sudden you just find like this cat's head mailed to you or some shit.
Yeah. I have a change of heart on the Snyder Cut, and next thing you know,
next thing you know, like Dave the Film Junkie's just like knocking on your door, like, hey, man, we talked about this.
What was gonna happen if you said that? You know,
I told you.
I told you not. I miss Dave, but you know, I do. We're gonna have Taylor on tomorrow. That should be interesting. Taylor Murphy from the Cultured Nerd.
Yeah, that should be.
Yeah, it should be interesting as always. But you know, we're just about at that 2-hour mark. Probably start wrapping it up. You know, give us like 10 more minutes to, you know, get it in there. But you know, I really do appreciate the honesty, I guess, is the number one thing. As I've always said, as I've always will say, I think it's part of like life to make mistakes, but it's a part of growing to admit that they were mistakes, right? So, you know.
Well, and that's the thing. There are people like the people that are in the chat right now that don't want to think that that you can change. They don't want to think that at all. You know, like just because like I have anger over what happened doesn't mean that I'm wrong in how I felt. You know, it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, I was held accountable. There was seriously bad shit that happened as a result, you know? So it's, and that is the stuff that I'm, you know, frustrated with when people were trying to coordinate to target my family, for example, like they were trying to find my grandparents and my mom and my dad. No, there was a Discord where they were trying to like, they were posting my home address, posting photos of my house. And they were like trying to say that, oh, I think I found his grandparents and, you know, and all this other shit. And it's like, there was coordinated harassment campaigns against me at that time, you know? So it's like to sit there and go like, is that worthy of the punishment? Like, does the punishment fit the crime? And no, I wouldn't call on that for anyone. Right. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it's just, no, that shit was like, it was sustained like harassment for like 6 months, you know? Until finally people got bored and moved the fuck on. But it's like, you know, the people out there who want to be these moral Puritans, like they've never made a fucking mistake. Like, no, eat my ass at this point. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing that stuff, like whatever, but you don't get to fucking lord that over my goddamn head when you're sitting there trying to hold over like literally something that takes 2 seconds to do and you're mad at me for it. You know, like, no, fuck that shit. Like, you don't get to hold that over my head. Like, you don't like me, don't watch me. All right. Yeah. Like I've had to live through this shit. I've already paid my fucking price.
And you know what, too? It's just that this idea that we're getting to a point in society where, you know, you can't share any sort of opinion or anything without there being that one person that drastic to that point, you know, like ridiculousness. You're showing up at your door, sending threats or writing letters, you know, like it's crazy that people, you know, and then people think that they argue that that's okay.
Well, it's not so much that they argue that it's okay. It's that it's that they don't argue anything. It's that they look the other way. Right. Because it suits their narrative. It suits what they like. They don't care, you know? Yeah. And maybe look, and I'll be honest, maybe I'm callous like that sometimes too, you know, like maybe I just am. I think we all have our moments and shit, but it's like, you know, I think a lot of it does require to be introspective on yourself.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, like you said, you're on. Yeah, exactly. You're honest with yourself. I think that's I think the biggest thing, is that you can say that you're on it, that you recognize it, that you're not necessarily making any excuses for yourself. You're owning up to it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just I have my frustrations, and sometimes it comes through.
Right.
Yeah, I
But
really don't like to block people. I don't like to limit speech, but come on, it's enough.
Right. Yeah.
Please.
no,
I
look,
hate I hate blocking people. I've only had to do it to one person, thank God, luckily, over the time. So, it's just all right, we get it. All right.
Right.
Yep. We really
look, basically the people in the chat that are trying to whatever, like this is just nothing more than concern trolling. It's all it is, right?
yeah.
It's like what Polly the polar bear is the most offensive thing you've ever seen. Really? Okay, right? Like, have you ever spent any time on 4chan? Trust me. Like it was it stupid? 100%. I regret it 100%. But it's like, if you think a puppet saying the N-word is like the most offensive thing you've ever seen, what kind of very guarded existence do you have? Like, that's the thing. If you can't spend any time on the internet and think that no, trust me. All right. Like, I'll tell you the worst thing I've ever seen. Literally the worst thing. It's still every once in a while it creeps into some dreams. I saw the 2 cartel members behead a woman with a machete on 4chan long time ago. And the sound is what stays, the sound of it is what really really gets in there. That's the worst shit I've seen. And I've seen some shit because like I cover true crime. So I've studied crime scene photos and stuff. Right. So, like you see some stuff, but it's like, there's certain things that do get under your skin. And if that did it for you, then by all means, like, I apologize for that, but I don't believe you, to be honest with you, because I don't think you're a good faith actor. And if you want to come in and concern troll me over something, I do call-in shows. Why don't you call on in? We'll have it out. By all means. I've opened up the phone lines constantly. I put myself out there in ways constantly. And if you want to call on in, that's something you can do. I don't care. Right? I don't care. If you have something you want to say it. Don't hide behind some anonymous account. Come actually put your fucking, put your mouth up to it. Say something. But in the meantime, all of this nonsense is just you're trying to concern troll me over something that doesn't impact your life in the slightest.
Yeah.
Did I come to your house, give your mom cancer? No. Like, fuck off.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to soapbox. I apologize.
Right. No.
No, that's okay. I just
Well, this is, I see you guys. I'm sorry this came to your doorstep. This is the kind of shit I see daily.
No.
Right.
I expected it.
Yeah.
I invited you.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, want to talk about this?
And you're probably like, never the fuck again.
No, never. I don't see people, and like a lot of, I've been, called things before, it's like, you're too nice. You don't vet people. Like, I mean, one of the tenants that lives in my house, like, he's in jail right now for domestic. And like, I was like, when did this happen? Like, when did he hit a woman? And apparently he was looking for drugs, like in the Boston, like there's something called Mass Ave. And that's where like you get a lot of drugs, if you're buying them on the street. And he went down there and like hit a girl. And I was like, yeah, maybe there's some truth to this, not vetting people. maybe I am too nice. But no, I've usually get a good like sense about a person, and like whatever. Maybe if you were still like mundane Matt and you were in that mode, maybe we wouldn't get along, right? Maybe. But you're who you are now, and I like talking to you. You have a lot to say. You have a lot of good opinions, and I find them fascinating. And like, we did this as a little like side venture, but typically we'll talk movies and TV and stuff like that. And I think, that's where I enjoy speaking to you. But I did want to talk about this because it did interest me, and it's, I just watched that documentary, so it's kind of in my mind. And
yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Want to know more, so I do appreciate you coming and taking flack. I know it's something that you handle every day, but to know you're about to handle it again and again and again. I'm sure you get a lot more of it on your own, but
it kind of like, I mean, there's only like 2 people, you know what I mean? Like that I saw. It's not that big of a deal.
That's I would say.
Right.
It's like, it's 2 people, but
it's only 2, but for you, it's probably like, 10, 20 coming in, like, You know,
It depends on like on most of my live streams, like it's really kind of minimal to be honest with you. Like,
Okay.
I think because I have it like open for call-ins, people don't want to say anything because like well then call on in, and then there have been times where people have called on in, and I just verbally destroy them like on a lot of shit, and then it's like people they don't want to call in again. You know, I'm like it's fun to verbally spar.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm on some good antidepressants that allow me to focus a lot better. So there we go. But no, the thing is, man, it's like, do I want people to like back, like what I appreciated if people were like, let's move the fuck on 100%. I don't want to keep talking about it. I want to do other shit. You know what? Like, am I doing it? No. Have I done it since then? No. Did I learn my lesson? 100%. But like the fact that people hold on to it for 3 years, that says more about you than it does about me.
Yeah.
You know, like if I can sit there and go, fine, I can acknowledge my faults and I can build up other things and find joy in like hanging out with my kids and trying to like, you know, tell stories and like be entertaining. That's on me. That's what I'm doing. If you're holding on to like Polly the polar bear or fucking the flagging shit after all of this time, literally after all of this time, what that just means you have nothing of value to provide to this world. None. Because if that's what's occupying your time, fuck, dude, I feel bad for you, man. I fucking pity you because at least create something. It creates something, anything.
Yeah. Even if it's an album about Matt.
Yeah. If you want to take words I have said and then like use a computer program to compose them into rap lyrics and then like put a funky beat behind it, which is what this guy really did.
Right.
You know, and you know, I'll tell you this though. This is the shittiest thing about that is like when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a rapper, but I'm terrible at it. And then this motherfucker comes along and he makes me into a rapper and he puts out a CD and some of those, and I've heard some of the bars.
All right, yeah.
And I've heard some of the bars and I'm like, God damn, that was good. Motherfucker. You know, like, yeah, I mean, granted, it's me saying very horrible things, but it's like, there's some good rhythm and flow there, you know? And I'm like, oh man. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Like I've like, it's just, to me, it's funny. It's funny because I'm like, because you have to, for one, look at the bright side. You always have to look at the bright side and find the humor in everything. And that's where I find the humor in that, where it's like the one thing I wanted to do when I was a kid that I'm terrible at, this guy made me say horrible things. So, you know, the irony is there,
right?
But it's like, it's also like, but I'm also big into technology and the fact that he created the software himself to do all this stuff.
Right,
I'm like,
gotta appreciate a little bit of it.
Yeah, I'm like, that's kind of fucking cool. And I hate to say that. I hate to say it, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah. Matt Jarbo, what a life you live, my friend.
Right.
Yeah, you said that to me the other day.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I envy you or I don't know, man. I don't know.
You know what? I would say there's highs and there's lows, right? There's highs and there's lows. And I feel like a high is coming on. So I'm pretty good, man. I'm happy with things all right now.
Good.
Well, you're always I do want to say, you know, you're always welcome here. Even if you just want to like talk about nonsense.
I like talking nonsense.
You know,
like,
so,
you know,
and get away from it all for a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming on, especially coming on for a couple hours, and talking about things that, you know, again, they're not, I mean, I actually enjoyed your like lesson about it, right? Until it gets at other stuff, you know, then it goes.
I'll be honest with you, and I told Tyler this kind of before that. I tried doing some research about Gamergate and like trying to figure out before, and I still couldn't figure it out. So this has been really, for me, you know, way more eye opening than anything I've looked up on Google so far.
What is it? There's a YouTuber named The Gamer from Mars. And he's a pretty big. He does like internet history videos and stuff, and he's working on like a comprehensive documentary.
Awesome.
Okay.
I did speak with him for like 2 hours a couple months ago, and we went through a lot of it with his team. Giving them like what I can remember and things like that.
Right.
But it should be pretty fast because he does want to come at it from like the perspective, I think, of trying to give as many sides of it as he possibly can, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. Cool. You know, it's like one day there will be an HBO fucking documentary on it, like 100%.
And then one day you'll get the full on biopic, like we
said. I'll get the call. Like, do you want to talk to us about Gamergate? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. Like, fuck it.
By that same guy that did the did that one, that would be kind of cool.
It's not. It's not as fascinating as fucking QAnon, though.
It's not.
Right.
It's not going to end with the insurrection of the fucking. It might end. It might tie into it a little bit. But it's like, oh, it's like this is like a choose your own adventure story where it's like or no, what is it like a movie where you get to see like stories running parallel to one another,
Right,
and they all
right.
to the same spot. Yeah. Crisis on Infinite Gamergates.
Oh my gosh.
My lord. But yeah, man, as always, you're like I said, you're always welcome back. Austin, thank you for as well joining me tonight. I know you were like, I don't know if I can commit or like,
conversate about
participate too much, but
I took today off. So I took the day off and I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine.
It'd be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, I've had fun.
But become a Patreon. With all that being said, that $5
give this man
month,
your money.
Yeah, with that $5 a month really goes a long way.
I'll flag you if you don't.
That $5 a month goes towards like the HD streams, which we talked about earlier, really expensive. It's $50 a month. That adds up. And then, it's not just a one-way street. Discounts on the store, all, like behind the scenes, pictures of my dog, whatever I can think of pretty much is, I give you access to the Discord, and all that good stuff. I'm really like tired, so I'm sorry. It's going to be really slow, but make sure to like and subscribe, follow us on Facebook. All the links are in the description. Matt Jarbo, as always, it's always a treat to talk to you. Austin, I'll see you in the morning. And boys, just remember, the more you smile, the more you smile.
That's right.